I'd like to welcome everybody. Thank everyone for coming. I apologize for missing the last meeting. I was away. My wife's mother passed away, so I wasn't able to be at the last council meeting. I'd like to thank Deputy Mayor Gallant for filling in for me during my absence.
Thank you, Worship.
So I'll call the meeting to order, and I'll acknowledge the land upon which we gather is a traditional territory of the Mi'kmaq. We pay our respects to the Indigenous Mi'kmaq people of this territory, past, present, and future. And on that, I think it's very fitting that while I was absent, there was a resolution passed to name the new street in the campus, John Joe Sark Boulevard, is it?
I believe it's
Street. John Joe Sark Street, which I think is very fitting. It's a tribute to someone who did a lot for the Indigenous people, and so it's our way of paying a tribute to that gentleman, and also to all Mi'kmaq people of PEI, and past, present, and future. Second item on the agenda is a declaration of conflict of interest. Is there anyone here tonight who would have a conflict of interest on any of the items that we're going to be covering here tonight? If not, we'll move to item number 3, approval of the agenda. If everyone's had a chance to look at the agenda, are there any suggested changes, additions, or deletions to the or order of the agenda? Anyone? Welcome, Councillor Cox. Sorry, we started right at 4:30, so I just yeah, I know you're busy. You got some things going on. Yeah. So if there's any changes, anyone who would like to suggest?
Just, it's not a change necessarily, Mr. Mayor. Just one small addition is going to be to planning, development, and heritage. I just want to bring up some of the work that the Heritage Committee has been doing. So I'll deal with that in due course. I just want to give you an update on that.
Okay, so that'll be included in the planning update.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. Anyone else? Any other changes or notes? Okay, if not, then I'll entertain a motion for approval of the agenda.
Move.
Thank you. Seconded?
Second, right?
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. Okay, any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Anyone against? Motion carried. Okay, the minutes of the regular council meeting of September 13th, 2023 are in your package. I was not at that meeting, so I did watch the recording, and it looks like a really good meeting, and my compliments to Deputy Mayor Gallant. Looks like you did a great job, so thank you very much. Any additions, deletions, or changes to those minutes that anyone noticed? If not, I'll entertain a motion for approval of those minutes. Thank you, Councillor Cox. Thank you, Councillor Jackson. Thank you. Okay, any discussion? If not, all those in favor?
Aye.
Those against? Motion carried. Is there any business arising from those set of minutes that we're not going to be discussing here tonight? Okay, if not, any presentations from the floor, Jeremy? No? Thank you. Okay, my report is in your package. There were, as I said, I was away for a period of time so during the last month, so I just want to maybe I'll ask Deputy Mayor Gallant to fill in any of the things that I don't have in my report. I know you did go to a couple of important events on behalf of the town, so if you wouldn't mind, if there's any information you'd like to share from those, please feel free. Yeah, so some of the highlights of my report. I got back in time on the Sunday to attend a great Fall Fest event at Cotton Park. The weather was beautiful and it was really well run. A lot of residents mentioned to me that they really enjoyed Fall Fest this year. It was a great success. So I really like to commend the organizers and the staff who worked on that event because it was really well done.
Mr. Mayor, if I might, I just have a question about your report. In terms of the transit study planning meeting with the consultants, I'm just wondering if you could let us know what the potential next steps there are in terms of going forward with the transit study planning.
Yeah, I guess it was to go over what the parameters were for the study. Maybe I'll ask Chief Administrative Officer or Deputy Chief Administrative Officer Pierce to provide further information.
Sorry, can I get your question again?
Oh, yeah,
in regards
just,
to the
I
transplant?
note from the mayor's report that there was a meeting with some consultants regarding the transit study planning. Wondering what the next steps were there, Mr. Deputy?
So they took the opportunity to meet with those that were available, representing council, to provide an overview of what the transit plan study was going to entail.
Okay.
And then in regards to the next step, it started with the meeting, and because there was several good recommendations of what we'd like to see within the town of Stratford. The transit plan will entail what is the overall best for Charlottetown, Stratford, and Cornwall, but we do have some ideas that we believe that would make transit better in our community and make it more readily available for our residents.
Okay.
So they're going to compile some information that they received from council, from stakeholder groups. There's 20 to 30 different stakeholder groups, from public open house sessions as well. They'll compile some of that information and bring it back to us as a group again, so we can get an update on where they're at before making final recommendations.
Do you have an anticipated date when that might be?
October 17th, there's an open house here at the town hall.
Right.
That we're going to start advertising, and that'll be here next week, so that it's an opportunity for residents and guests to come into town hall to provide opinions in person, but there's also going to be an online forum as well through surveys that people can provide comments and suggestions.
Great. Thank you.
Okay. Another highlight of my report is yesterday I appeared as a witness before the House of Commons Finance Standing Committee, and it was a great experience. I got an opportunity to raise some important issues that we would like to see or some important elements that we would like to see in the new 2024 federal budget. Some of the things that I raised, one is the difficulty in funding, because when we apply for infrastructure funding, we get approved for the funding, and sometimes it takes a long time to get the work done and the bills in. And if there's an serious inflationary blip during that time period, often the costs can be significantly higher than what was approved, and we either have to not do the project or else borrow money to do it or raise taxes. So we ask that the Finance Committee consider recommending an inflationary amount. We suggested perhaps 3.5% in normal years or thereabouts, or the rate of inflation when the bills are finally paid. Yeah, there's some other items that there are Hansard records of that committee, minutes of that committee. If anyone would like to look at them, they'll be available through the House of Commons website.
And just to confirm, Mr. Mayor, that's the House of Commons Finance Committee, not our town's Finance Committee.
That's right.
Yeah,
It's
okay.
the House of Commons. Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's Federal Parliament of Canada. Yeah, yeah. There was members of Parliament from Manitoba, BC, Quebec, and from the island here, so it was quite an interesting hearing. It is open to the public. It is, and I think if I hear of another one, I would plan on attending, because there was a lot of good information about a number of issues really important to the town and also to the province as a whole. So that's my report. Does anyone have any questions on my report? Just before I close, I'd like to also mention that Mary Hughes, a longtime resident, longtime volunteer with our town, who's done an awful lot for our community. She was recently presented with the Order of PEI at a ceremony at Government House, and I just want to recognize her as a great member of our community and someone that we're all very proud of. So I'd like to hope you'll join me in congratulating Mary on her award. So I'd like to. And the second person I'd like to mention is Constable Jamie Parsons, who was awarded a national award as Police Officer of the Year by Mad Canada. That's the whole country. He personally took 77 impaired drivers off the road, and it's a really great achievement, and it's well-deserved recognition for Constable Parsons. So I'd like to congratulate him as well, and I know you'll join me in congratulating him as well, because he's serving not only our town but our province. So that's my report. Is there any other anything else anyone would like to?
I'd just like to add to your report, Your Worship, that I attended the Reconciliation Day, September 30th, at the Shaw Building with the Premier and Junior Gould and so on. It was nice, a beautiful day and a great ceremony. So I represented the town, a large turnout, so I was really happy to attend that. So another thing, I attended the gala. It was HCMS Queen Charlotte Gala there on September 23rd, so their 100th anniversary. So it was a great big turnout and great comments and so on, and with the naval base down the Queen Charlotte there for 100 years. So it was good to see. So anyways, that's my two events I attended.
I believe you also attended an event at Government House for Meals on Wheels.
Oh yes, I forgot
Because
that,
they were recognized for their service to our community. So I appreciate you attending that as well.
Yeah.
So thank you.
Yeah, it was a busy week.
Yeah, I bet. Yeah, thanks a lot. Okay, anything else? If not, we'll move on to the next item on the agenda, which is the Chief Administrative Officer report. I'll ask Chief Administrative Officer Jeremy Crosby to give his report.
Thank you, Your Worship. My report is in your package. I'll just go over a few of the highlights, and if you have any questions, I'll try to do my best to answer them. So September was a busy month. Had a meeting with representatives from MRSB to discuss the 2022-2023 draft financial statements, and everything was in order, and we received a letter back from them indicating that. Had several meetings with the developers of Red Meadows with regard to that project, and glad to see that the approvals have been done with the town, and they are started there now. I, along with Deputy Mayor Steve Glant and Chair of Finance Ron Dowling, we attended a meeting with Chief Superintendent Derek Santuoso with regard to RCMP community policing. Great discussions with regard to what the RCMP are doing, and what's coming down the road for us. There is some information that they are going to have body cameras now, and they're providing some additional information and the costs associated with that. So it's good to have those quarterly meetings with the superintendent just to go over community policing, and definitely we have great officers here in Stratford that are looking after us. So also attended a meeting with the Federation of PEI Municipalities, along with several CAOs, and what they were doing is trying to restart the Association of Municipal Administrators within Prince Edward Island. So it's a great opportunity for us to meet as CAOs and go over various aspects from, small communities right up to larger communities, and some of the issues we're dealing with, whether it be housing or infrastructure or other items. So glad to see that that's started up again. It kind of fell off the table a little bit during COVID and such, so I think we're going to be meeting maybe quarterly or twice a year for sure. And also, myself and the Deputy CAO, we attended a meeting with the members of the Capital Area Transit Committee to discuss the upcoming Transit Strategic Plan, which was mentioned earlier. It's about 10 years since it's been looked at, and you can see from the numbers tonight that transit is really taking off again, and there are going to be additional routes that we need, and additional whether it be on-demand transit or other ways of looking at transit within our community, so that people can move around the community freely. I think it's a very timely strategic plan that has to be looked at. So other than that, there's a lot of other meetings that happened in September, but I'm willing to answer any questions with regard to my report.
Just one question. So it's in relation to and if it's something that's better dealt with in safety services, you just let me know. But I'm just wondering if you or any of the town staff have received feedback on the reconfiguration now of the speed humps on Rosebank.
I didn't myself, but I've heard from other staff members that people are a lot happier now to see that they've been reconfigured, and they are similar to the ones on Marion Drive, and I don't think there's as much concern with them now. So, and other than that, I haven't heard a lot more, but maybe Jeannie could speak to that.
I don't have a whole lot more to add. I don't know if your question was more so on the feedback from the province's monitoring program.
No, just I guess in terms of how they've been
Just, yeah,
reconditioned or reconfigured.
there
to,
was definitely a lot of voices heard when they first went in, but once they were corrected, I think everything's been going fine and well.
And so on that, I just want to say I really appreciate Mr. Driscoll's efforts from your department to make sure that they're, I'm sure he took a lot of that to heart, and I know he was really, he was instrumental in getting the contractors back out to get that remedied, so please pass on our
Well, of course.
appreciation for that.
Thank you.
Just have one quick question, Your Worship. In relation to the meetings on the revenue sharing agreement, maybe a bit premature yet, but just wondering if you could give council a bit of background on the approach that's being taken in relation to that.
Yeah, we're still working with all the municipalities to try to get everybody together with a common theme on that. There's still work with the Federation of PEI municipalities. We are going to have something back for them soon with regard to how we approach government. There have been some conversations with some of the ministers with regard, especially the ministers here in Stratford. They're well aware of the file. So we do think that things are starting to move forward, but it may be a little while yet before we actually make a presentation to government.
And that our current agreement has expired,
Correct.
and we're about 2 years out of that agreement now.
That's correct.
Yeah, so hopefully that'll move along quickly, and government will be on board to recognize the rising costs of this community and all communities, and up their share of that revenue within that agreement, because it's very much needed by all municipalities at this time.
No, I certainly think that with all the extra costs that are municipalities, and whether it be infrastructure or operating costs or price of materials, it's something that government is looking at, and we're hopeful that they will come to the table.
And I did receive an update at the latest Federation of PEI Municipalities board meeting, which was held about a week ago, and it's an active file, and hopefully we'll hear something soon. There have been some undertakings by government to actually provide some progress on that file, so we got fingers crossed that there will be something announced or made public in the near future, or at least discussed with us or presented to the municipalities in the near future.
Any other questions? Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Okay, yeah, thank you for your report, CAO Crosby, thanks. Okay, we'll now move on to safety services, and I'll ask Councillor Jackson to give his report. He's chair of that committee. I'd also, just before we start, I'd like to welcome, I neglected to do this at the beginning, Corporal Weatherby. Thank you for attending again tonight. I know you're busy, and but really appreciate you being here tonight, so thanks.
Thank you, Worship. Sorry, well, that's loud. I'll stay back a little bit. So our safety services most recent meeting was held on September 18th. I'm just going to go through the highlights of the minutes, Your Worship. We did hear from folks from the Crossroads Fire Company. At last council meeting, I talked about some concerns around the high number of calls last year, especially with respect to Fiona and the impact that's had on the finances of the fire company. We'd also talked to, so we did talk about that a little bit, and are going to continue to look at how we engage with the province and other stakeholders to make sure that the financial pressures on the fire companies are brought to light, and hoping to meet with the the two ministers from our district here just to talk about that in the coming weeks. We'd also talked about some concerns the fire company had around the traffic congestion and parking on the sides of the roads and how that could hamper fire truck access. So we did at that meeting, we did a good discussion on that as well and came up with some solutions there to help, whether it may be some no parking signs in areas where we need to make sure there's enough room for the fire trucks to get through in the event of an emergency. As well, at that meeting, we had an update from Corporal Weatherby on the RCMP matters. One of the things we did talk about was the story that was in the news about a month ago around, about 6 weeks ago, I guess, with the person that was hugging folks. We did get an update on that. The situation was remedied. So we are very confident that was resolved and the person was just a visitor to Stratford, so they're not a full-time resident. We did talk about e-watch, so an update on that. So I want to thank the staff here who've been working hard on e-watch. We have a meeting set up for October 18th with local business to discuss the program. Chief McConnell from Charlottetown, I know Corporal Weatherby is going to be on hand to provide their knowledge, their expertise, their support on that, so we can hopefully get that off the ground. To Councillor McDonald's questions on the speed humps and Rosebank. So at that meeting, we did discuss how the speed humps were installed, but they needed to be fixed up with some, to bring them up to standards. That was completed shortly after that, and I know I did have a lot of emails and calls from folks. Most were positive around the speed humps. To be fair, there was one or two that were not happy. But again, we understood that that was going to happen, so we're doing our best to deal with the traffic and speeding issues down there. We just beg patience of any folks that are not, that may not see the benefit that others may do. Hearing from some folks that traffic has kind of rerouted around there, so going down some other streets maybe, so that's maybe an unintended consequence. But again, permanent speed humps, but a pilot project, and we're hoping to see what happens from that, and we can hopefully apply that logic across the town if it works out. So that's the safety services meeting. I gave a very high-level overview of that. Any questions on that before?
Just wanted to say, so first thing, is there any areas, Councillor Jackson, that you can speak to that are particularly bad for cars parked on the side of the road, or is there?
Yeah, sorry, from the fire company's point of view, there are some streets, some in newer developments in Stratford where, whether it's not I don't think it's a design issue, there's just the sheer number of folks parking in spaces where, it's a lot of it's around affordability of housing and trying to, a number of people pooling their money together to live in an apartment or a townhouse. So there are some areas they identified. They did want to take back from that, and if they need to, they will put up some no parking signs. It was around cul-de-sacs and some of the narrow streets. One was just not far from the fire company. I guess I don't need to really identify them. They've identified them themselves. Yep. And are keeping an eye on those. So we just want to make sure, in the event of an emergency, that we do have access and that our members can get there.
I just wanted to also say, I've read the minutes of your meeting, and I do appreciate Director Woodard bringing up some of my constituents' concerns about or requests for an intersection in and around that area, that Rosebank area, and as well as Glen Cove areas. So hope that there's some follow up there. I'll follow up with you folks, but I really appreciate you bringing it up at the committee level anyways. I'll wait for you to discuss transit before I do have a question for you on that, though.
Sure, thank you. So moving forward, we'll get into transit after a couple minutes here. Streetlight report, we didn't have any streetlight report for this month. Just before we get to the RCMP report, I did want to mention, and I hope I'm not taking this from someone else, But on a safety front, the crossing lights at Cotton Center, the youth center, I know this is a big deal for our youth council, and I'm sorry if anybody else is going to bring this up. So I guess I'll go back a little bit to Actor Transportation, one of the meetings we had, and I think Wendy, your daughter Ashlyn, and another young lady presented on the safety issues around there, and so really brought it to our attention. I know it's been an issue for a while. Traffic, we were down at the Cheryl Duffy's Memorial Walk. You just see how busy it is there, and that's in the daytime. It was dangerous, so as the days get shorter, it's all that more important. So our youth council met with Minister Hudson and Minister Redmond in late September to share their concerns with the crosswalk on Bunbury Road at Cotton Center. And through that, I'm proud to say that the minister confirmed that they're going to have flashing lights installed. Crosswalk's going to be repainted, and the street light will be installed. So that's a huge credit to our youth council. And Wendy, please pass on to Ashlyn our thanks, and her friend, and all the rest of the youth council, and Dwayne Pino, who's been there for years and years and years advocating for these folks and helping them to get their voice heard as well. It goes to show what can be done when our youth kind of raise the concerns, and they did it in such a great way. I know at that Actor Transportation meeting, like it wasn't just they had lots of great ideas, and they're fairly clever with their methods. So I congratulate them on that. I think it's terrific, and I'd encourage them to find some more areas that they might get the ministers here more than we do. Yep. Get on to the RCMP report here. I did want to congratulate Constable Parsons on his award. Again, a great asset to our community and the island community. And Corporal Weatherby, before we get going, thanks for always being there for us and answering calls and increasing patrols in certain areas. I know we had an area that some folks were hoping for speed humps, and the data didn't quite meet the needs there. So he did commit to spending some more time, or having his members spend some more time in the area. Another he may touch on here as well is the significant investigation that was wrapped up recently on the fraud case. So Stratford RCMP, the Provincial Priority Unit, Prince District Joint Force Operations, Kings District Street Level Drug Unit, and our Stratford RCMP all worked together on that one, and that was a major investigation, and so maybe he can come up and share a little more on that. I guess not really so much more on that, but I know all the council appreciates, and I think we all chimed in by email on that one, on how thankful we are that we have such a great group looking after us here in Stratford.
Thanks, Councillor Jackson. Yeah, that investigation was well in depth throughout August, and majority all through September. Appreciate the other specialized sections there that come in at the end, just to help us with executing the search warrant at the residence, and the arrest of the two males there. Obviously, a lot of everything's still before the courts there, so we were glad to get to the conclusion on that file. It was a long time coming, and those type of investigations are very time consuming, and a lot of materials to go through, and search warrants and everything else. So, but it was a great team effort, and if any questions on it, like I said, it's still before the courts, and one person is still in custody at this time.
I'll just make a small point. Like, I know in that case, I was aware from some residents in June that there were some things happening, not to the scale that it became, but, it's amazing. We live in a drive-through society where we want things done like within an hour if something's brought up. But sometimes we have to sit back and let the professionals do their job, and sometimes it takes months, sometimes it can take a couple of years until things come to fruition. And in this case, the rumblings that I first heard that I talked to you about, obviously it went to a whole different scale. Even I didn't see that, obviously. But really glad that you took, you know, the thoughts that I brought to you on behalf of residents, and that you looks further into this, and like you're going to anyway. It wasn't because of I started this, but the thing was, I think at first I was a little frustrated because I wasn't hearing too much, like as far as a closure on this person, but not knowing as a common citizen what is transpiring here. So when this did come out, it was like, wow, that's a lot of work. Like, you know, and I guess myself being the son of an RCMP officer, you know, I know the work that goes into, you know, from seeing that firsthand. And I just want to commend you one more time. And it's nice to know we have officers like yourself in this community, and I hope you stay here for the rest of your career.
Thanks, Cameron.
I'd just like to comment with Gordy. I know we, our budget is for 6 officers, but it's all, and Corporal Webby attests to it, it's all the other sections that contribute to the whole file. So even though we're paying for 6 officers, we got all these other special sections that Corporal Webby can tap into. So and conclude the file, come together. So it was great work, great work.
Sorry. So yeah, the report is in your package. Anyone have any questions, Corporal Weatherby? We had, just looking at the numbers, again, assaults and fraud instances there. We had 11 collisions I looked at this month, and I'm not sure if it time's up with cruise ship season or not, but I've seen a few, and some mental health calls. But anything of note that you want to point out, or any questions after that from folks?
I know it was addressed previous to the thefts. On one chart it's 4, but there was actually, in relation to the gas and go type of situations, we ended up having there was 18 of those in the month of September. 15 were deemed unfounded, where it was accidental, thinking that they tapped their card, got confused when they went inside, went for a coffee, and then just walked out. So we're still trying to work with that type of situation as well. So it takes up a bit of extra time. Specifically here in September, the traffic enforcement within Stratford, by the members of Stratford, was obviously down a bit. A lot of that comes back to the fraud investigation that we're working on. It kind of takes you off the street. It's fairly time consuming. So I did notice that came to me when I reviewed the report. So that's the only thing that really stands out for me.
I think that makes sense. I mean, we'd hope RCMP would focus on items like Councillor Cox and Deputy Mayor talked about, and you know, it makes us feel really good to know that you look at these numbers every month, and we do have some items, and we have some extra mental health calls and things like that, but we do feel safe. We're well looked after. You're putting the resources where you need to in these investigations. This had a broad impact on a lot of folks. So obviously, I think we're getting great service from our RCMP. And anyone have any questions? Anything on this for Corporal Weatherby while we have him up here?
I just had one question. Just wondering about the school bus, people passing school buses with the lights flashing. I haven't noticed any publicity or anything about that lately. Has that sort of gone away? Are people becoming more cognizant of that, or are you still getting complaints about that?
In Stratford, I don't recall receiving a complaint for the whole month, which, knock on wood, the whole month of September.
Yeah, that's
so,
good. Yeah.
I think I think that provincially, I think that's really gone down. The complaints in regard to that. Hopefully, people are starting to be aware of that. And I know of one just offhand within Queen's District, offhand for September, but not in the Stratford area.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah.
That's good. That's good to hear. That's an example of a successful campaign of education and enforcement working together, eh? Yeah.
Yeah, it's great.
And heavy penalties too. Like the penalties are so
the penalties
onerous
are
that people they only do it once if they ever do it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Thanks.
Thanks, Corporal Weatherby.
I
Oh,
see
sorry.
Corporal Weatherby with Nova Scotia RCP, I don't know if you're aware of it, you probably are, just, well, small complaints taken to the front counter, like theft of gas and so on, keeping the patrol cars on the road, like, you know, when you see, I don't know if you saw it yet, I mean, it's probably a good thing to talk to Superintendent, what's his name? Yeah, and he just, maybe some of the, if it's front counter complaints, I saw that as sort of over-the-counter complaints are done and so on, and it keeps the car more on the road. So I know the Nova Scotia detachment is working with that, but we'll have a discussion on later. We'll talk about it. You know, it's, like you said, with the visibility now, you said the shift changed, 4 on 4 off, which helped really well, right? There's always new things, right?
Yes.
So anyway, that's great. Thank you.
I have one question as well, more for understanding. And I've asked in the past for clarity surrounding the classification of a call as a Mental Health Act call, as to whether or not that is determined by enforcement or the caller. And I'm wondering, in instances where it was a crisis labeled that, like a mental health crisis labeled that by the caller, does the provincial mobile mental health unit, like, do we have service, like, is that unit deployed in Stratford? And if so, infrequently, or how does that work?
It has been deployed at times, but in order for the mental health mobile unit, the person must be willing to accept that as well. So typically we'll do a referral if we don't think it's a public safety or safety of the individual.
Yep.
We'll discuss and educate them on the mental health mobile unit.
Yep.
And we will put in a referral. Sometimes we may call right in the presence of the individual, if that's something they like. We haven't seen a great deal of it in use for Stratford.
Okay. Thanks.
We would always suggest it or whatnot, but if the person tells us that they're not interested, we can't impose that on them.
Right.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Thank you, Corporal Weatherby.
Yeah, thanks very much. Thank you.
We'll move on to the Humane Society report. So in this one, a little different. So we did have increased number of community patrols. We did have one bite that broke the skin. We had one dog boarded for 5 days, and we did have one euthanasia. I'm not sure if anyone has any more information if they were all related to the one bite that breaks the skin, but not sure. That's okay. We can bring it back for next meeting if anyone has any, but generally standard. Other than that, continue on here. The transit. So, Councillor McDonald, you had a question on this. So great to see again, record high numbers, 307 average a day for September, and that's significantly higher than any of the other Septembers we've ever had. Great to see. Again, you know, with the work that's going on around expansion, I just hope we can consider Ward 3. Again, I know it's not ideal mapping-wise or anything like that, but it is showing that it's really growing in Stratford, and it's a great service for folks, especially in these tight financial times. And so, Councillor McDonald, you had a question?
Only question I had, Councillor Jackson, was certainly really great to see the positive trend line increasing with transit. Wonderful. My question is, and if you don't have the answer really at hand, that's certainly fine, but just maybe some food for thought is, my question is always, okay, so I'm seeing the numbers go up, excellent, great to see that that's being embraced and that's being used. Are we running into capacity issues? Are buses full? Are people ever being, you know, I hope not ever being turned away, anything like that, or where are we at with that? And if it's able to be quantified.
Yeah, I think we'll ask CAO. He's been very active in this file.
We haven't heard that in Stratford. We've heard about it in Charlottetown, that they're having to put extra buses on, or a smaller bus coming behind the larger buses, but we haven't heard that in Stratford yet, but the buses are quite full. But not over capacity at this point. But we'll definitely check on that with the provider and see.
Thanks.
I just wondered, and I think I had asked this previously because I'm always interested in the ridership numbers and/or breakdown of who's using the bus. And I think I had asked, do we know, like the trend line is positive, do we know what the full capacity number is?
They would have that information. I don't have it with me tonight, but we could get that with regard to the buses that travel just in the community, or you want the whole?
So it would be interesting to me, and the piece that I feel has not been present is as to whether or not there are buses, like one could assume or infer that commuter hours, like there's specific runs and times that would be very full. And then one could also speculate that there are other times that aren't. So I would love it, it would be helpful to know, yes, these particular runs are always full, or these two, like, so we could see if in expansion, like that we could be mindful or thoughtful in the expansion, so that it's not just increasing the runs and seeing our numbers go, but also seeing like this particular run is rarely filled to capacity, et cetera.
Yeah, I think there is a further breakdown of the report that we get. We show the total ridership, but that is specifically what the consultant's going to be looking at is, what runs do need to be improved, what additional runs we have to have. But I do think we have additional information on the breakdown of that information. We get it on a monthly basis, but if not, they would have that information and we can get it for you.
Yeah, it just helped to determine like overall efficiency.
Yep.
So the trend line is positive, but it would also be interesting to know if there's still partially full buses running at any of those expanded times.
Yeah, certainly.
Just have one comment, Councillor Jackson, and the Deputy CAO alluded to it earlier in relation to new approaches, and one perhaps isn't new, and I think there was a pilot prior on it, but at the meeting with the consultant, it was requested that the consultant also, in their effort to gather information, focus with some degree on the notion of internal routes. As it is now, yes, there are a lot of connector routes, but essentially going one direction or the other out of the town, but there's no specific routes that do circular routes for seniors who might want to go grocery shopping and that sort of thing. So it's more of a on-demand type of response as one model, but there's other models where they're route specific, and the consultant is going to canvass the public in relation to their study. And I just put that out there for the pending public meeting, and hopefully we'll be able to get some gauge from the public as to what the ridership might be for that type of a model. It might be a model that can be included within the current service provider at a specific cost to the town, or it may be that the town has to do it on its own, but we'd have to determine the demand, and the demand might not be as high now as it's going to be in 10 years. 15 years, but certainly something that is worth exploring now, despite the effort that we had in the past for the pilot project. I think, it's different times now, and the pilot might be more successful. Certainly would be in the future as well, but just to put that out, that was part of the discussion during that meeting.
Thank you, Councillor Dowling. And it is very important. Just back to that original pilot, the timing wasn't great. I think that was right at the start of COVID. So that obviously was not the best time to try that. But again, I know the CAO and I know a lot of folks have been talking about this. As we kind of increase the amenities in the town, folks don't need to go to Charlottetown. And I think that's something where whether it's a small kind of an on-call type service or whether it's something a little more robust than that, I think that's something we do need to look at, and I'm glad to hear that they are looking at that, because that is the biggest gap is getting around Stratford right now, especially when you talk about the safety around trying to get across the highway to the Petrocan, to the town hall, and Sobeys, and even across to Murphy's Kinloch. So that's something I'm glad that they're looking at, and sorry I didn't get to that meeting, but you have my full support in pursuing that and every option we can to try to move folks within Stratford and keep their money in Stratford. Thank you. Any other questions on transit? I'm almost wrapped up here. The fire company, we don't report this month, but we are meeting on Monday night. I think it's Monday night. So if there's any questions, any from council, I can take to that meeting. If not, Councillor, do you have a question?
I do, but it's out of order. I'd hope to ask you a question when you were still in your safety report.
Oh, sure.
And I apologize. We kind of, with the Corporal Weatherby. And it could just be my experience. I'm just wondering if you're getting feedback. I'm noticing, and certainly we've had a lot of fatalities on PEI roads lately, and dangerous driving and awareness that pedestrians and other small, people aren't always following the rules. I'm noticing that here in Stratford. When I'm driving in the morning in the dark, I meet joggers that are on the wrong side of the road. When I'm coming up Kinloch Road, I'm seeing people on scooters riding in the wrong direction on the road, et cetera. So I'm wondering if that's coming to your attention, and as to whether or not we are continually trying to run awareness sort of messaging surrounding that. And my second piece is as to whether or not anyone's brought up a crosswalk on Kinloch Road. Continually people are crossing from Golf View across to the old Cablevision Heights area, and I'm just wondering if that's on your radar.
Sorry, what was the last one? Crossing Kinloch at?
When you're coming up Kinloch Road,
yes,
and before Fox Meadow,
yep,
there is actually a build-out on the sidewalk. So our own sidewalk installation on the right-hand side of Kinloch Road actually juts out as if it's a crosswalk. It extends to, you know what I mean, the shoulder of the road.
Yep.
So it is frequently used by residents, and they cross Kinloch in an area that's not a painted sidewalk.
We were meeting on Monday as well, I think, with Safety Services, so I can bring that up. Back to your other item around safety and awareness and all of the different things. So again, if you see any councillors, any residents, if they see issues early morning, folks, maybe not on the right side of the road, we can do what we can around awareness. But any specific issues, I would send them to me or to the town, and we'll get them included in Safety Services. I think, we're happy to bring all those up. If there's something, I guess, obviously that can't wait, bring it to our attention, bring it to Jeremy's, and we'll see if we can do anything about that. So specifically though, Councillor, is that early morning hour or just in general?
Well, I counter it early morning,
Yeah.
but I'm seeing like the kind of not following rules on bikes and scooters overall, and I worry. Like I'm seeing
Yeah.
scooters come through the intersection at Jubilee. Anyway, so just I don't know what we can do other than to continue to message.
Yeah, and I think Wendy has in the past, and the town has sent out information on that. The scooter thing is a new thing, and I know they're struggling with it in Charlottetown. The danger of scooters and folks not wearing helmets, not minding the rules of the road is fairly significant in there. So it's something we need to keep an eye on here as well. I haven't seen it to the extent that I have in Charlottetown, that I work in there every day, but again, something for us to keep an eye on. Yeah, so any of that stuff. If it's something immediate, let us know. If there's something that we can talk to Corporal Weatherby. If there's serious violations, infractions. If not, we can continue to try to educate. But we will definitely talk about it at Safety Services. Find a way to deal with it, and if it's education or if it's enforcement, whatever. Maybe a little bit of both. But please send them along.
Okay. Thank you.
Just one thing.
Yep.
I know this is out of order as well. I should have raised it during the actual safety services part of it. The traffic lights at Kinloch and Trans-Canada Highway. I was on my bike the other day and I was trying to cross from on the south side of the Trans-Canada Highway. I was trying to cross to get to head towards town and then go over to the Petrocan. No problem getting across from on the west side to go across to the Petrocan, but going from the east side, there's no way to cross. There's no lights. There's no signal. And now with the new development on the other side, and it's the same story crossing on the east side, going across to where the new Crossroads development is going in. I think that's going to have to be something that's raised with Department of Transportation to get the appropriate. And maybe it's something that could be brought up at Safety Services and maybe it's infrastructure as well. I'm not sure, but it's something that's going to be. And it has been raised with me by other residents. I never really understood it till I was in the position myself, and I realize now that it is dangerous. So it is something that I guess will have to be addressed in the future. At least on the south side, it probably should be addressed now. But
Sure.
When the new development is completed,
And maybe Jean, you can enlighten a little bit on the conversations that we've had and that she's had on this.
I just wanted to jump in there. That crossing on the south side of the Trans-Canada at Kinloch, we have been communicating with the province on that and trying to get them to get that implemented. It's been back and forth trying to get an update from them, but it has gone from that to them for sure.
And when the other development is complete, like the Tim Hortons and the A&W, people are going to want to cross there
on
as
that
well.
side of the intersection as well.
Yeah.
Yes.
And,
Yeah.
I guess that's something we're going to have to consider in infrastructure as well, because they have to have a landing pad on the other side, and currently there's not one there. So
No, there isn't. Yeah.
we'll have to look at, as part of the budget process, what we need to do there.
We haven't thought about that side of the intersection, to be honest, but the south side crossing for sure has gone to the province. I don't know if they would be, I guess they would, if we had the infrastructure, would be willing to do crossings on both the east and the west side of the highway. So we'll
Maybe
have to
so-
bring that to them as well.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Yeah, thank you,
Can I-
Worship. Sorry, Councillor Cox.
I mentioned one last thing, if that's okay. I guess the safety, I've talked about this before, but on Stratford Road, and that's, I just talked to Corporal Weatherby before he left about this, but like the sign that's in the middle of the road there that gives you your speed, 109, 112, 115, 117 kilometers an hour, multiple times a day. And it's getting ridiculous now. Like, it's really getting ridiculous. And now that the pond is back to, has been, the project's finished and there's canned geese in there and there's more people pulling over to go out and take pictures and to enjoy it. And the speeding isn't just happening at 9 o'clock at night. It's happening at 3 in the morning. It's happening 3 in the afternoon. People are just tramping on it, especially depending on how you get to the four-way stop. If you're coming from around the Blue Church and heading up towards Sobeys, like that way, if you're heading, you can clearly see what's coming down from Fox Meadow and Sobeys. So you can tramp it if you're going up to Georgetown Road. I'm really, really worried that someone's going to get badly hurt on the Stratford Road. Like I've lived on the Stratford Road, the corner of Stratford and Greensview Drive for 29 years, and I've never seen it like it is now. In fact, this morning at 3 this morning, there was a motorcycle that must have been doing, I'd say 150, and it woke me out of my sleep this morning at 3 in the morning. I could hear him gearing up way up to Georgetown Road, and he just flew by. And more residents are getting really worried about this happening. I know it's not just Stratford Road. There's Mason Road. There's all kinds of roads that have this, but I'm just talking from what people that are on my street and from what I see myself. And I think it's great having the sign. I'm not knocking the sign. I think the sign for 75, 80% of people, it really makes you think about what your speed is. But for some people, I don't know if it's something that they're trying to hit a number or what it is.
Thanks for raising that. I think it's been noted, and I think it'll be,
Yeah,
maybe it could be raised at Safety Services.
Yeah, we'll add that to Safety Services for Monday. But on those situations, yourself and any member of the public Please call the RCMP if there's dangerous driving, if there's excessive speed.
Yeah.
You know, while it's happening or after it's happened, especially if it's all times of day, like they need to know that. Again, to what Councillor said over here, but if there's things that, like, we can't wait. Safety services is great. We have a great discussion on all these. We plan, we talk through things, but immediate needs, let the RCMP know if it's a dangerous situation. Let the town know if it's something within their jurisdiction. Now, these are roads, and so I would encourage you to talk to the RCMP about that, and I know you have.
Yeah.
We can't let that happen. We can't have that in a residential area, especially, you know, we're a couple months away from kids going across that pond again to skate and things like that. So we can't have that. If there's other kind of traffic calming, if there's something we can do there kind of outside the box that might help us in that area. Again, it's not the only area, but we don't need to see somebody going 150 on Stratford Road.
And like I said, 80 or 90% of the time, the sign is really effective. And people like myself or yourself, you can say, oh, I didn't know I was creeping up to 60
Just
or 65.
on that, Councillor Cox, I think maybe if we could ask that the data on that sign be looked at, and if there's any pattern to that speeding that takes place there, if there's a common time or whatever, maybe we could ask the RCMP to, they don't have to necessarily be on the Stratford Road to catch the speeder. My understanding is they can be well off the road and with their radar set up and still be able to, we're out of sight, and they can still catch the offender.
I just wanted to bring it up. That's all.
No, thank you.
Oh, we appreciate you bringing it up. And like we said, we have only so many officers, so we need to be their eyes and ears as well. So please report it in. They're all too happy. I know Corporal Weatherby and other members are great to take the calls and respond. So I'd encourage you, any other councillors, any members of the public, to do that. That is essentially my report. The one other thing I wanted to do, not really related, and I know I've taken enough time already, just to highlight a local nonprofit, one that I'm involved with. So I'll declare that now. But the PEI School Food Program, PEI School Food Program, very important program. Runs the Stratford hub out of our town hall. Very dedicated staff. Couple of staff. They're putting out about 500 meals a day to residents in this area, kids in this area. You know, the program has seen massive uptick in need this year. So I just want to kind of bring light to that. It's an important service to Islanders. If there's any residents out there that are struggling with school lunches that are, you know, or any reason, please make use of that program. That's what it's there for. If you don't have the funds for lunch every day, if it's whatever the situation may be, it's pay what you can. So you can pay full, you can pay zero. But it's an important program, and I do thank the town for providing the space in the town hall here for that program to operate in Stratford. So again, if anyone out there can use it, please make use of it. And we're also looking for donations, so anyone out there that wants to support this worthy cause, please get in touch with them. Thank you.
Your Worship, just before we move on, it's not necessarily a question for, well, it's not a question at all, it's a comment, but not necessarily for safety services, but perhaps even infrastructure. But I did receive a complaint from a resident in relation to the lighting along the Bunbury Road. The issue is, and it may be the same, I haven't canvassed other areas, but I did go out and look at this road at nighttime in particular to see the extent of it. And your comment earlier about having experienced it before you realized the extent of it brought this to my mind. The resident, essentially, the issue is the lighting is alongside the road opposite of the sidewalk. So the sidewalk side itself doesn't receive much lighting. Now, I did bring this up with CAO Crosby, and has been looking into it, and other staff members, and we're waiting back words. I don't want to get ahead of myself from Maritime Electric, but the greater issue is, as we increase our active transportation, there's more people walking, more people biking, then it may become more and more of an issue along these perimeter roads in particular. And just for council's awareness and It's something that I wasn't specifically aware of as to how or who looked after lighting in certain areas. And as I understand it, the town has control, or at least to a large extent, of lighting in relation to the feeder roads, the subdivisions and such. But it's the province who has control of the lighting along the main roads, Bunbury Road, Stratford Road, etc. And part of the issue in relation to Bunbury Road is that Maritime Electric owns all of the poles that the lights are on the opposite side of the sidewalk, but the telecoms companies own the poles on the sidewalk side. So the policy at one time was that the telecoms weren't allowing Maritime Electric to put lights onto those poles. Staff is checking now to see if that remains to be the policy. And if it is, then we would, I think, have to look as a community, starting now, as to what strategy we can implement in order to enhance lighting in areas where there are sidewalks and active transportation trails along these arterial roads, that we can cause lighting to be increased in one way or another.
Okay, thank you. Thank you for raising that, Councillor Dowling. And you have, it is being investigated by staff. I'd like to see this followed up at our next Committee of the Whole meeting, the Committee of the Whole Council meeting, which will be held towards the end of the month. So hopefully by that time we can have some more information and be able to have a more fulsome discussion and maybe put together what our strategy will be. And because I think right now we're updating and you know, asking questions and providing information. So I appreciate you raising that and providing that information. So thank you.
The reason I bring it up is I wasn't aware of how that worked specifically, and there may be others that aren't entirely sure of it. And I know this resident said she brought it up at the last two consecutive councils, and there was varying feedback as to who had ownership and who had responsibility. So I think it's important for us to collectively know, because we are in a bit of a unique situation in Stratford for a town this size, wherein we don't own the roads.
There will be a solution, and I think if we discuss it at Committee of the Whole, we'll be able to hopefully, what I find with these kind of situations, jurisdictional issues, if you get the right people around the table, you can usually come up with a solution. So if we get the telecom company and the Maritime Electric and have a discussion, I know council or staff will be discussing it with both parties, and hopefully come to the next Committee of the Whole with a hopefully a solution or a proposed solution, and maybe if it is something that is you know, a subject of dispute, maybe we can ask the province to be involved as well. But there is a solution, and we will work on it and hopefully get it resolved with this council, especially if it's been raised with the last two councils and it's been an issue. So thank you for raising that. Okay, anything else?
No, that's my
Jackson?
report, Your Worship. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Okay, we'll now move on to Recreation, Culture, and Events. I'll ask the chair of that committee, Councillor Jill Chandler, to give a report.
Sure. Thank you so much. The Recreation, Culture, and Events Committee met last week. It was a rescheduled meeting. Unfortunately, we did not have a quorum, so it was more of an informal update. In regards to the Stratford Youth Centre and Council, we currently have 65 registered members at the Youth Centre with access to a wide range of programming that is listed in your agenda package. The Youth Centre will have a few youth worker students on job placements over the next few months, and they are going to help deliver programs and mentor youth members, which is a really nice opportunity. Second annual Cheryl Duffy Memorial Walk was held on September 23rd as part of Fall Fest. 124 walkers participated, and over 5,200 was raised for the Youth Centre, which is significant. 2023 winners of the Cheryl Duffy Service Awards, as we've discussed before, Tyler Beaver Hounsell and Ashton Dudley, both received their $500 bursaries towards their post-secondary education. Youth Centre is currently planning for their Spooktoberfest event, which will be held on October 27th through 29th. And this year the event will include the trick-or-treat trail for younger kids and the scary trail in the evenings. And as Councillor Jackson has already stated, we're all tremendously impressed and proud of the accomplishments of the Youth Center Youth Council initiative in bringing awareness and action to increasing the safety of the crosswalk on the Bunbury Road. And I do have to congratulate and thank Dwayne in the learning opportunities that these kids are exposed to through their experience at the Youth Center. In regards to capital projects, the mini ball field at Fullerton's Creek Conservation Park is nearing completion. This will provide a fifth field for the community and will support play for the under 5 to under 11 age groups. And it's my understanding that we're just awaiting the installation of the fence. The boardwalk project at the waterfront is now underway, and the cricket scoreboard, which was damaged in Hurricane Fiona, has now been replaced. There were several delivery delays, but the sign is now in place. In regards to arts and culture programs began this month. The Artist in Residence Visual Arts for Stratford residents. Alcohol ink markers with Tricia and Baldwin will be offered from October 13th through March 8th as an online program, and the Movement and Dance Enrichment Program for grade 1 students at Glen Stewart Primary and grade 6 students at Stratford Elementary is running from October through to March 2024. Full list of youth and adult art programming is included in your agenda package. In regards to events, as we know, the Fall Fest returned September 22nd through 24th at Robert Cotton Memorial Park, and the festival celebrated culture, arts, nature. The two-day festival was very well attended. I know that several councillors took part in the programming, and I want to commend, again, the staff and all involved in the planning and execution of that. I think these events are wonderful, and as I've said in different meetings, these events, to me, are the things that help us establish and grow our identity, as residents. I think they're wonderful. So thanks to everybody who supported that. Right now, there's planning underway for the Remembrance Day service, as well as our Christmas in the Park event. And although it seems very far away, the New Year's Day levy planning is also underway. In regards to programming, the skateboarding, it's really taken off. Uptick has, it's been very impressive. It started in May as an intro to skateboarding program, and I believe it's going to return in the spring. Yes. The Town Center Gym is now programmed, I think, pretty full from morning, or completely full from morning through to the evenings, with offerings ranging from pickleball, badminton, volleyball, basketball, and tennis. In addition to these various programs, the Gym and Fitness Center just surpassed 27,000 fitness area visitors this year. And I think that that concludes my report. I did just want to also make mention of the ball tournament that was hosted here in our Eastern Express AAA U15 baseball, and the team, it was a wonderful tournament. The Eastern Express, I believe, placed second overall in the tournament. So congrats to them, and congrats to all involved in hosting that tournament. And I think that concludes our report, unless anyone has any questions.
Not a question, Madam Councillor. I just want to pass on Jeremy Pierce has provided me with an update on the mini ball field. Looking great. Really glad to see that progress. I know our recreation community here in the municipality and in the greater area are really excited to take advantage of that. So kudos to town staff for moving that project along in a fairly short time frame, all things considered, considering the size of the project. So kudos to the recreation department, and that's going to be a real benefit to the whole community.
Any other comments or questions?
Just one. Just want to pass on congratulations to the 10 Under Atlantic Baseball Academy Blue Wave team that went to the Maine Fall Classic tournament last weekend and were perfect 4-0 and won that tournament. So I've been following along with this, and they have like kind of mini major league ball fields. There's a mini Fenway, and so anyway, just terrific to see. I'm not sure if all the children are from Stratford. But again, Atlantic Baseball Academy just down the road, Myrtle Street. Congratulations to all them.
Great. Congratulations. That's great.
Another thank you. I had the opportunity to speak at the Cheryl Duffy Memorial Walk there, so it was great. It was attended well by the RSMP retired members and active members. It was nice to see, and it was a great turnout. And I guess like last year raised $7,000, $7,400. This year is 45 and change, 4,500. So $12,000 in 2 years. So it was a great opportunity there, looking at everybody, and Cheryl, the time and effort she put in the youth center in town of Stratford. She was always a big advocate for the youth, and it was nice to see it. A big turnout, a large turnout, and Councillor Jackson was with me there, so it was great to see everybody, and it was a great turnout. And then back to the Fall Fest, it was a great, they talked about the location. This year, everybody's positive with the location. The parking was fantastic, Cotton Park. Had people talking about why do we have a street dance in the parking lot? Why don't we bring out some food trucks and some stuff, and maybe a band in the parking lot there or something. But people, like you say, residents of Stratford want to have something to share or get out and talk and meet people. And I know Charlottetown, Victoria Row has it. I know Somerset Side has it. You know, we're a town. It's good to look at those opportunities to do that. I mean, it was a great event, and it was a cheap event. It was good that way, and it was put on really, really well. And Jeremy and Tanya and Rachel and Dwayne, it's been great. It was a perfect event. It was accolades right across the board. It was just so well organized, and the park itself looked beautiful. It was nice. It was great.
Thank you. Thank you for your comments. And I know we've had discussions outside of this. Well, just in the importance, we do so many things well, and there's so many offerings offered in the recreational portfolio, but people are looking for and long for opportunities for connection and these cultural, identity pieces, and I think what you've suggested is something that we can work towards. Yeah. And I think that it's shown that people are interested in supporting, and meeting their neighbors in these sort of different settings. So, yeah, we'll put that street dance on the list of things that we want to do.
The trail looked wonderful, the lights on.
It was beautiful.
And the residents were, the pride was there, you see it in their eyes. Everybody was so happy. It was good to see.
Yeah, great. Yeah, and a lot of that is thanks to this council and previous councils who had the foresight, and this council who's been really supportive of all our recreational initiatives. So thank you all for that. And thank you, Councillor Chandler, for your report. Is there anything else?
No, I think that's everything, with the exception of just saying that I had the great fortune of spending some time with fellow councillors and you on the golf tournament. And it was lovely to get out and enjoy some time, and we were a decent team. So thank you for including me.
Yeah, we ended up -4 thanks to Councillor Chandler shooting the lights out.
I don't know about that. Anyway, thanks again.
Thanks a lot.
Just very, very quickly, Your Worship, I want to echo comments in relation to Fall Fest and how well it was developed and run, both by the youth and by the staff and volunteers. And I think Cotton Park is a very good choice for location for that event, with the amenities that are there already. And I think with the implementation, hopefully by next Fall Fest, of the crosswalk arrangement that the Youth Council did so well in lobbying for, in place, then the parking situation will be a lot more comfortable for people as well, to be able to park and safely cross the street. I know there was some current concerns this year in that regard, so that should rectify that issue.
Great, thank you. And that serves as a good introduction to your report, Councillor Dowling. Maybe we could ask you to give your report now as Chair of the Finance and Technology Committee.
I just have one question. Just to Jill, I know it's probably for the future. We're looking at the rinks, the outdoor rinks.
Yep.
I'm a big advocate for, talking to people that weekend at the Fall Fest, we're talking about having an outdoor rink on the grass area. Jeremy, is there any thought or process this year looking at just for skating only? No boards? Is there anything in the plans for the future? I know we have the commitment from the weather, but I know it's October. just to sort of pre-plan before if it happens.
Yeah, we have plans for 3 locations this year, 2 at Pondside and 1 at Bunbury Ring. We did look at the Cotton Park in the past, adjacent to the big, the greenish colored gazebo. But the field is not level. It would have to be substantially graded to make it a flat surface so that it'd be conducive for ice skating. We do have future options. The grading of the waterfront park, there's a section there, and in time, once the waterfront park becomes developed, that there could be an additional ice surface there, purely for skating.
So what we have to do is have a budget to grade it.
To grade it down, yeah.
A year ahead, sort of.
Exactly, yeah.
Is there any, I'm probably throwing some ideas out. I know Fulton's Marsh, I know outdoor skating, a couple of residents asked me about, I know we have a fire truck, would it be able to flood some of the trails if the weather cooperates and have a trail through Fulton's Marsh?
Yeah, that would be a possibility.
Yeah.
It would have to be extensively cold, really cold for an extended period of time. The other part is that we'd have to deviate from our current position of grooming those trails because it'd have to be a decision to be one or the other.
Yeah.
Maybe in the interest of time, Deputy Mayor, we could look at raising these issues, some of these ideas at Committee of the Whole.
That's right.
And we could have a really good discussion and then maybe consider them at budget time as well. Or I guess it's for this winter. Budget time will be a little bit late for that. So it's good that you raise it now, and then we can follow it up at Committee of the Whole and maybe explore them a little bit more and get some more information. Let staff do a little work ahead of time and see if we can come up with a good plan and something that we can communicate to residents and put in as part of our recreation plan. Because right now I think it's not part of the plan, but we could certainly do it for next year. But it's good that you raise it, so thank you. Okay, thanks very much, Deb.
And just before we move on, I just wanted to correct one thing. I know that we had congratulated Constable Jamie Parsons in regards to his award from MAD Canada. The award that he had received is the Terry Ryan Memorial Award, again for his exceptional efforts across PEI in reducing instances of drunk driving. And I know you had said about the number of arrests that he had made, 77 in 2 years. And I had read other information that other officers across Canada had received a recognition from the RCMP, and they had made 12 arrests per year. So his success rate, it's significantly ahead of.
And I know that when he was interviewed on Compass, it was mentioned as part of the introduction that it was a national award.
Yeah.
And it was for one police officer in Canada that was selected by MAD Canada as sort of police officer of the year.
Yes.
So it's actually called the
Terry Ryan Memorial Award.
Terry Ryan.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. Okay, with that, we'll now move to Finance and Technology. I'll ask Councillor Ron Dowling to give his report.
Thank you, Your Worship. Just a brief report from Director O'Connell in relation to activities of herself and her staff over the past month. She attended an asset management conference in Moncton, New Brunswick. Met with the representatives from the school board regarding their lease renewal within this facility, and worked on updating the long-term forecast spreadsheet. Met with department heads to review information for upcoming strategic planning session. Attended a revenue sharing meeting and now preparing for information to bring back to the Federation of PEI municipalities. Construction financing tender for the community campus and waterfront boardwalk is closed, and the resolution is included later in this package, which I'll bring up later in this report. A claim was sent to our insurance company for Fiona damage. We're still trying to secure a contractor for work on this building, the town hall, that was damaged during Fiona. And she attended a workshop on Neptune 360, which is the software that runs our water meters. And also from a utilities collections perspective, Disconnects were issued the weeks of September 28th and October 5th. One property was disconnected the week of September 28th and the week of October 5th. 15 properties were issued notices, and 2 possibly would be disconnected. Utility bills are currently being processed, and e-billing should be processed on October 10th, and bills for mailing will be going out to Tremploy for distribution on October 11th. The Finance and Technology Committee's regular monthly meeting was held on September 13th, 2023, and among discussions of new business was the interim funding resolution, which I'll bring up momentarily. At that time of the meeting, the request for proposals had not yet been received from various banks, so there subsequently was a poll taken by committee members for confirmation of the resolution, and I'll touch base on that as parcel of the resolution as well. But the minutes of that meeting had been distributed in this package, and if there's any questions or comments in relation to either the director's report or those minutes, I'd be ready to address them. Hearing nothing, then the town income report or statement is included in the package, as well as the utility income report. I'm wondering, are there any questions in relation to those reports? Moving on then, Your Worship, to the resolution, Town of Stratford resolution number Town of Stratford resolution number FT012-2023, Community Campus and Waterfront Boardwalk Construction Financing. From the Finance and Technology Committee, moved by myself, whereas the Town of Stratford is currently constructing the community campus infrastructure, which entails roads, water and sewer and active transportation network, and the boardwalk at the waterfront park. The expected date of completion for both projects is by March 31st, 2024. And whereas the Town of Stratford asked for proposals for interim construction financing of $10 million, it is the Town of Stratford's intention to replace the construction financing net of funding from other funding partners with term financing on or before June 30th, 2024. And whereas we requested proposals from the following financial institutions: Bank of Montreal, Provincial Credit Union, CIBC, Royal Bank, Scotiabank, and TD Bank. And whereas a request for proposals closed at 1:30 p.m. on October 10th, 2023. And whereas the construction financing is planned to be approximately $10 million and is within the 10% capital debt threshold of the Town of Stratford. The current borrowing limits for the Town of Stratford, based on our total assessed tax base of $1,173,569,500,000, 10% of which is $117,356,950, of which we're using $15,911,256 as of March 31st, 2023. And whereas the following rates were received for construction financing: option one month term loans, Royal Bank 5.70%, the Cora base rate plus spread of 0.70%, and Cora being the Canadian overnight repo rate average. TD Bank 6.35% in prime 0.75%, Scotiabank 6.20%, prime 1. Option 2, bankers acceptance 1 month term, TD Bank 6.23%, Scotiabank 6.16%, and RBC 5.80%. be it resolved that the town of Stratford enter into a Cora loan with RBC for the community campus infrastructure and waterfront boardwalk at the rate of 5% and a credit spread of 0.70% for an all-in rate of 5.70%, subject to market fluctuations prior to closing, and that the mayor and chief administrative officer be authorized to enter in the Cora service agreement with RBC on behalf of the town of Stratford. This resolution bears a recommendation of Finance and Technology Committee as submitted via an email poll on October 11th, 2023. And I'll just move, Your Worship, for an amendment to this to reflect
Yeah, I believe that's a typo, so I think that's, Jeremy, correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe it's okay to correct it in terms of the final resolution. So
okay.
as you're moving Finance and Technology Committee, I don't think an amendment's necessary, so we'll just correct it in the
Okay.
version that we sign off.
So just to wrap up, this resolution bears a recommendation of the Finance and Technology Committee as submitted via an email poll on October 11th, 2023.
Okay, so you moved that. Do I have a seconder?
I'll second.
Thank you. All right, discussion. Kim, do you want to, or Director O'Connell, do you want to give any explanation, or do you want to just answer questions if any come up? Okay, any questions for Councillor Dowling or Director of Finance O'Connell?
Not a question. I just think, based upon the numbers alone, I think it's by far the most fiscally prudent option is to proceed with the 1-month term loan with the Royal Bank. I mean, the numbers are what they are, and even a small change in any percentage point with the amount of the principal of the loan is going to have a massive impact on town finances. So I think we have to, I think we absolutely have to consider the lowest rate possible.
Yeah. And I guess just for anyone listening or watching this online, perhaps you could explain, Councillor or Director O'Connell, why it's just a 1-month term. Why is this something that can be renewed, I guess?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we don't take the whole 10 million right away. We'll, like, as the project goes along, each month we're getting invoices, so we do drawdowns up to a maximum of 10 million. So if we don't have to borrow the 10 million, we're not going to do that. We're just going to borrow as we need up to a limit of 10 million.
And we'll be only charged interest on the amount that we borrow.
On the amount that we borrow. And then as we go along, those two projects are government funded. So we're submitting invoices as they come along so that we can get government funding to push against that right away. So as little as we have to borrow is what we want to go with.
Mm-hmm.
But just we have to, the amount of the two projects together I think is around 14 million. So we need to have to pay them up front and then get the government funding back afterwards.
So it's basically just bridge financing.
Yeah, bridge financing is all that it is. Yep.
Yeah, okay. All right, any other questions? I'll call for the question. All those in favor?
Aye.
Anyone against? Motion carried. Thank you.
Thank you, Your Worship. That would constitute my report for this month.
Okay, thank you. That's a big step forward, getting the financing for these two big projects, which are both underway and progressing really well. I've been to both locations and really impressed with the progress that's being made. Okay, we'll now move to Planning, Development, and Heritage. I'll ask Councillor Jeff McDonald, Chair of that committee, to give his report.
Thank you, Your Worship. So we'll begin, ladies and gentlemen, with reviewing the building permit summary, which is found at 12B-1 of your meeting package. Safe to say that it's a very positive outlook for September. Clearly, planning staff is incredibly busy processing the applications. I would say single-family dwellings really came back with a roar in the month of September. Really positive to see. We're really looking forward to welcoming a whole lot of new citizens to the town of Stratford. We also have some duplexes and row houses being constructed as well. Certainly a great month for development applications received. Planning staff is hard at work at doing that. Really big jump from last year, September. We're a little off the pace from year to date from 2022. However, certainly that may change when the institutional outlook is updated with respect to our year to date development with the construction of the school and the other and the associated ancillary development related to the school. Be that as it may, certainly there can be no doubt that growth in Stratford continues at a good pace. Planning staff, as you know, is very engaged in making sure that our planning and development bylaws as flexible as possible to allow for a really good, attainable housing mix that addresses the needs of the largest number of citizens as we possibly can. So thank you, as always, to the staff for compiling these numbers. I will pause at this point if anybody has any questions as it relates to our building permit summaries or building type summaries for the month of September. Okay, thank you. Hearing nothing. There are no minutes available as we really just had our meeting yesterday. Again, appreciate everybody's consideration on the very short turnaround from planning staff to get the resolutions to you in advance. We did have a meeting on them, not to give it away, but both will bear the approval and recommendation of our planning staff held at the meeting yesterday. So thank you again for allowing us to have that meeting on a fairly short turnaround time for your consideration. I will now move to 12C, which is our first resolution of the evening from planning. This is resolution PH 030-2023, DP 168-23. From What's the Scoop Incorporated, care of Craig Murphy. It's concerning a use at 20 Irving Avenue, PID 398693, which is a special permit use and a temporary commercial use being a food trailer. At this time, resolution is for a public meeting to be held. It is moved by myself as Chair of Planning, Heritage and Development. I'm asking at this time for a seconder.
Well, we'll read the resolution
Yes,
and then ask for a seconder.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah. The resolution reads as follows. Whereas an application has been received from Craig Murphy on behalf of What's the Scoop Incorporated to operate Ken's Islands Fries food trailer, a temporary commercial use located at 20 Irving Avenue, PID 398693, which is a special permit use within the Mason Road commercial zone, where the Mason Road core area design standards are in effect. And whereas pursuant to section 13.5.1 subsection B in the zoning and development bylaw number 45, council shall ensure that property owners within 61 meters or 200 feet of the subject property are notified in writing and asked to provide their comments, and ensure that a public meeting be held to allow residents to provide their input before making a decision. Be it resolved that a public meeting be held on Wednesday, November the 1st, 2023 at 7 p.m. in order to provide an opportunity for the applicant to present the proposed use to residents and obtain their input regarding the special permit use. This resolution bears the recommendation of the Planning, Development and Heritage Committee discussed at a meeting held on October the 10th, 2023.
Okay, thanks for the resolution. Moved by Councillor McDonald. And do I have a seconder? Thank you, Councillor Chandler. Okay, discussion.
Just one quick question, Your Worship. Is there any current policy regulating food trucks within the community? I know it's a very popular type of industry among many communities, including various ones of all different sizes on PEI. I'm just wondering whether there's anything currently on the books in relation to governance of food trucks.
Good question, Councillor Dowling. We actually brought this up yesterday. Our Director of Planning, Mr. McKeegan, is at the lectern, and I'll let him address your question.
Yes, we have street vendor bylaw on our work plan for this year. We're hoping to get to it later this year or the first of next year. It's been an extremely busy year, so we've had to kind of delay that, but we've talked to potential consultants, and we look at a couple right now that have potential and are interested in doing the bylaw. So I don't think it'll take long to get the RFP together. When we do put it out there, I know for sure there's a couple who are interested.
I think the question was what is in place right now?
Yeah, there's nothing in place right now, but the bylaw will be constructed.
So whenever we get a request, it's handled
It
as a
goes through
resolution of council?
Planning board and
Okay.
council first, yeah.
Yeah, and I just raised that because I wasn't aware whether or not there was anything in particular. I'm glad to see there is something that's being proposed. There's differing views among, residents, I'm sure, as to whether they're positive or negative influences, and particularly in relation to bricks and mortar type establishments. So it tends to be garnering a bit of interest as communities delve into that. And as we progress, then we can look at this as an ideal site for such a venture. The side of the road, not so much, so that's the type of thing we'd want to look at governing going forward.
You're absolutely right, and those are all very germane comments, Councillor Dowling, to the issue. I mean, I think it's fair to say that there is always that tension between, your, as you described it, your bricks and mortars establishments who are making some significant investments in the community, something we want to honor and respect. Also, on the other hand, the fact that food trucks, street vendors, and other such vendors can provide an alternative mix for retail and dining opportunities. So that's the tension, certainly, and I think that's what's going to be addressed. One would expect and hope with some of the consultation that we're going to be doing to develop that new bylaw. Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you very much. Yep.
Sooner rather than later, I would say. We're not,
I just have one point there. There was another food truck in that area. I'm not sure if that's coming back or not, the one that was
No, they
located.
set a temporary permit. It ended in the end of April or in
Okay.
May, I believe.
Are they
So
planning to come?
They didn't stay there that long. I don't think it was very successful.
Okay.
Yeah.
I was just curious if that'll be a second food truck or not, kind of thing.
not
No.
right now, Council.
They would have to apply.
Okay.
New,
Thank you.
They would need to be authorized by the provincial government as well. They need a license from the provincial government to operate as well. Yeah.
Just to clarify, there is a picture of the food truck in our slides, and it is the one that's in front of Canadian Tire. So we're all aware of that, French fry. Yeah, exactly.
What's
Really good fries.
Pardon me? Yes.
if you look at
Yeah.
if you look at 12C4, that's the photo of the actual truck in question. It is very much a trailer. Yeah,
There it is.
you might be familiar with it. Yeah. And then when you look at the site plan, which is at 12C3, it shows you where the intended placement will be. So you see there's a red rectangle,
Yeah.
and that is the proposed site location for the trailer. Now, we've had, at planning, we had a really great discussion and actually raised a lot of viewpoints and comments that you good councillors have raised here today about some of those tensions that may exist in permitting food trucks or special use cases such as this.
I think just before we go any further on this, this resolution is for a public meeting to be held.
I was just about to say that.
Oh, sorry, go ahead.
No, thank you, Mr. Mayor. And so certainly we're hoping to incorporate some of those comments at the public meeting, but understanding that this is not for final approval of the special permit use at this point in time. Yeah, you're not
Okay.
wrong to say that, Mr. Mayor.
So the resolution's on the floor. It's been moved and seconded. Are there any further discussion? I'll call for the question. All those in favor?
Aye.
Anyone against? Motion carried.
Thank you. Again, we'll see this again after incorporating.
Yeah, absolutely,
the
yeah.
comments of the public meeting.
You have another resolution?
I do, thank you. This is resolution PH 031-2023, DP 179-23, coming from APM McLean, which is the community campus and high school located at 215 John Joe Sark Street, PID 1137884, which is a Part 3 institutional building with height exemption. It comes from Planning and Heritage Committee held at a meeting on October the 11th, 2023. It is moved by myself at this time as chair of that committee. Resolution reads as follows. Whereas an application has been received from APM McLean in cooperation with the province of Prince Edward Island and the town of Stratford to construct a high school, which is a Part 3 institutional building on future Lot 1, parcel number 1137884, approximately 34.20 acres in total area, located at 215 John Joe Sark Street within the Stratford Community Campus, which is zoned public service institutional. And whereas the approximately 140,000 square foot institutional building is proposed to be 36 feet and 3 inches in height, requiring a height exemption of 5.2% and service with municipal sewer and water. The site is proposed to contain an on-site geothermal heating system, surface parking for 291 vehicles, 28 buses, some with electric charging posts, and bicycle parking. Be it resolved that approval be, oh, my volume went way up.
Perfect.
Yeah. Be it,
That's better.
be it resolved that approval be granted to an application received from APM McLean in cooperation with the province of Prince Edward Island and the town of Stratford to construct a high school, which is approximately 140,000 square feet in area, with a height exemption of 5.2% on future Lot 1. Parcel number 1137884, which is approximately 34.20 acres in total area, located at 215 John Joe Sark Street within the Stratford Community Campus. Zone public service institutional, subject to the following conditions. 1. Conformance with the conceptual drawing submitted to the town on September 21st, 2023 as prepared by 9 Yard Studio. 2. The site plan shall be revised to include a minimum of 9 barrier-free parking spaces within 30 meters of the building entrance it serves, and such entrance shall include a curb ramp in accordance with section 10.7.3 of the Town of Stratford Zoning and Development Bylaw number 45. A detailed servicing plan must be submitted for approval to the Stratford Utility Corporation. 4. A detailed stormwater management plan must be prepared by a qualified engineer and approved by both the Town of Stratford and Department of Transportation and Infrastructure. 5. A detailed erosion and sedimentation plan must be prepared showing how erosion and sedimentation will be controlled and contained during construction. 6. A detailed landscaping plan must be submitted by a qualified expert outlining the details and quantities of the materials to be used. 7. In accordance with section 10.2.1 subsection H of the Town of Stratford Zoning and Development Bylaw number 45, where the bus parking lot abuts the low-density residential zone, a landscaped buffer area of at least 1 meter or 3.3 feet in height shall be added to the landscape plan, planted on the property, and shall be maintained in a healthy growing condition by the property owner, or the existing tree line may substitute the landscape buffer area, providing the existing tree line is located on the subject property shown on a plan of survey as a tree buffer area and shall be maintained in a healthy growing condition by the property owner. 8. Provision is made for unobstructed access around the building exterior year-round for emergency services access. 9. The building contains a sprinkler system with adequate fire-rated central water pressure or an internal standpipe system with adequate water capacity and pressure. 10. Approval and compliance with any comments received is obtained from the Crossroads Fire Department. 11. All other relevant provisions of the Town of Stratford Zoning and Development Bylaw number 45 are met. Now, this resolution does bear the recommendation of the Planning and Heritage Committee as discussed at a meeting held on October the 10th, 2023.
Thank you. Thank you for your resolution. Do I have a seconder? Councillor Jackson, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, any discussion?
So I'll just as an overview on a few of the topics that form part of the, first of all, for the height variance. I'll draw your attention to the drawing package, which is at 1 of 2, which is 12D-2. You'll see to the left of the drawing on part of the extension wings of the proposed building, there's a small portion of the roof which extends over any other. That's the portion of the roof which requires the height variance. It's minor in nature. I understand it's, I believe it contains mechanical and HVAC equipment, which requires a bit of a increased height. I understand that there was 2 ways to approach this. There was the potential to average out the height of the entire building structure such that it wouldn't require a variance, but it was believed by all of the parties that the best approach was to apply for the variance. It is minor in nature, such that I think not much turns on that. Ultimately, of course, it is for you to decide, but I would suggest that the size of the variance is indicative of the fact that it is in terms of everything, it is just over the limit which requires approval of council rather than simply a straight approval by planning staff. The other portion I would suggest of the planning that was the focus of our meeting yesterday and a focus of some of the background was surrounding the number of parking spaces, in particular the number of barrier-free parking spaces. Under our bylaw, what the requirement was to ensure that some of these barrier-free and accessible parking spaces were found within 30 meters of the entrance of the building. As initially contemplated, it was something that just needed some tweaking. However, the project proponent is aware of the requirement, and I understand is going to make those changes. Now, the numbers that have been provided with respect to parking, the layout of the parking spaces, where all of that parking is going to happen, the layout of the building, we received it certainly as part of our planning process. We had asked planning staff, Director McKeegan, as well as Mr. Ruff of the planning department, to make some inquiries about how the applicant got to the point where they were settling on these numbers. I'm actually going to call on Mr. Ruff of our planning department. He was doing some investigating as to what was the rationale for the numbers provided to us, what the background was. So I'll ask him to come forward and just provide some of his research and some of the background on all of that information.
Yeah, it's okay. So there have actually been numerous committee meetings. There's a planning committee set up for schools. So they've actually had just over about 40 meetings to discuss it. And there's been numerous interactions with teachers, curriculum leaders, professional consultants, and other subject matter experts from across the region. And from their inputs, that's how they provide their design. And they're also been working with architectural consultants on the design too. And they've made changes throughout the process to generate numbers. So in terms of the parking ones, we've worked out 291 would be sufficient. They would have sufficient parking for the school.
And so, if I might, Mr. Ruff, I just have a question out of that, or a couple of questions. So I understand that as part of the design process, there was a number of consultations made with various stakeholder groups to determine really what the requirements were going to be, specifically as it relates to barrier-free parking, I understand?
So barrier-free, they go with their requirements, which I believe they need to do 9.
Yeah, they've got them listed on the site plan, and there's 9 there as well, yes.
So minimum required is 9, so that's, I think it's for every, you need 1 for the first 10 parking spaces plus 1 for every 40 after. So the only issue is a couple of parking spaces would have to be realigned because our requirements are 30 meters from the building entrance.
Yep.
And a number of them are beyond that distance, so they just need to move along one row as opposed to scattered rows.
And I understand as well, those consultations extended as well to the bicycle parking and things of that nature.
So provincial officials were involved with it, transportation and the school board, very extensive meetings.
Okay. And so I understand that based upon our meeting yesterday, based upon the consultations that you've done today, that all of the work required to really make sure that the parking as it's laid out is going to adequately address the needs of that building and address the needs of the people who are going to be using that building.
Yes,
Yeah.
This is also a road store too, so you actually have a lot of bus transporting the kids in. So an urban school without buses, you probably need a higher parking setup. But being a road school with bus parking and bus transportation, you need fewer parking spaces.
Okay. Thank you. I don't know if any other councillors have any questions for you.
I just have one in Duffy Road that's going to be connecting with the back roadway on this road, Councillor McDonald?
Duffy Road.
This resolution is for the construction of the school.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so we can, if you park that, if we can discuss that at committee of the whole, that would be great.
Okay.
No, it is
Yeah.
important. I think it's an important issue,
Yeah.
but it is important that we don't lose it. So we'll raise this at committee of the whole.
Yep.
Okay. All right. Any other comments or questions? All right. Oh, sorry. Go ahead, Director McKeegan.
I'd like to add information. When I was speaking to the provincial official today, I found out they also put additional infrastructure in the ground for the future charging for recharge areas. So they're looking long range at this as well, so that's a good thing.
So charging for cars.
Cars,
Yeah.
possibly buses and DB.
But the buses already have a bank of charging stations?
Yes, in the event that there's additional units needed, they will
Okay.
validate that as well.
Okay, thank you.
Curiosity, and I don't recall whether there had been any mention of solar panels for the school. I see they have geothermal heating, which is fantastic. It's a great.
Yeah, I believe it's net zero ready, my understanding, and that I understand is this is for the construction of the school, and in terms of net zero, I think it's something we could follow up in the future. I believe it's net zero ready, is it not,
Yeah.
Director McKagan? Yeah.
So, Councillor Dowling, with respect to solar panels and the installation of those, under the current provincial incentives programs, there's actually more of an incentive to allow for a building to be constructed and then post-construction to look at implementing those solar panels.
Retrofitting, yeah.
And retrofitting, and that's just how the incentive structure is currently aligned
Sure.
for.
So it will be net
And they
zero.
raise it only because of the height variance request, which is certainly not out of character given the location of the building, but down the road, solar panels may exceed that
Good point. Yeah.
height as well, so
I
just
think-
raise it, and that's.
I think we need to look at the whole height restriction issue with regard to the town, and maybe in the future, we can have at a planning meeting first, and then at committee of the whole. Because now, I think it was put in place originally before the town had a ladder truck, and now we have a ladder truck, and it's just something that, because of the workload, it needs to be done as part of our official plan and zoning and development bylaw, that we need to look at that and maybe look at changing it, I guess. But that is something that I think we could park for now.
If I may, I'd like to add one more comment. There are other ways to deal with those kind of structures when they're small like this. You do exemptions in your bylaw, even if we add to the height. There always may be that structure's above the height, no matter what. So by giving exemptions like you do with houses, with chimneys and bay windows, that kind of thing, would apply the same thing to structures like this. So
Yeah.
keep that in mind going forward.
Okay, thank you.
The intent is the height of the facility itself, not the facility.
That's right, yeah.
Yes.
That's right, yeah. Okay, if there's no further questions or discussion, I'll call for the question. All those in favor?
Aye.
All those against? Motion carried. I think this is also a great step forward for our town. The fact that this construction is now able to begin, and hopefully it will begin in the very near future. I'm not sure what the exact plans are, but I think it's going to be a great step forward for our town, and really looking forward to it.
High school for our kids?
Yeah, absolutely.
Senior high school.
100%.
the road,
That's
yeah.
right.
So, thank you. I now, if you might have recalled, I just wanted to add some things to the
Oh,
planning
yes, that's right.
agenda.
You did mention
Yeah.
at the beginning that
Yeah.
you wanted to add an
Ju-
item.
Just two very small things. You've likely heard about this, but I just want to make sure the record's complete. You may recall at our last council meeting, we had voted on some of the street names in that area coming from Heritage, and one of the names had been proposed as Farquharson. If you recall, we were waiting some input from the fire department about that. Fire department input came back. They were concerned about the potential overlap with Ferguson, as a result of which it has been decided, based upon that input from the fire department, that that road is now going to be named Russell Drive. So I just wanted to provide council with that update. The other update from Heritage is that, well, two updates from Heritage, I guess. We've added some names to our Town Veterans Memorial. I'll read them into the record because I do think it's appropriate to honor them. I mean, I know we're a month away from Remembrance Day, but I'd rather do it now. And those names that have been added to our Town Memorial are Frank Victory, Russell Stewart, Blanche Doucette, and Rachel Thomas. And so I wanted to make sure that that's read into the record. And the last thing is that the Heritage staff has been doing some really excellent work with respect to a new placement of a new interpretive stand that will form part of our Veterans Memorial. And it's in relation to the Mi'kmaq sisters from Stratford who served in the Second World War. The stand has been given internal approval from our Heritage Committee. It's going to be placed under a tree in front of our town hall. We're then looking, I've asked that it be added to the agenda to, currently these stands are placed under the trees. What Heritage is looking to do is, and what I'm looking to do, I suppose, and I think Heritage is on board with this, is to somehow create a linkage between these various stands with some paver stones or a pathway such that it's really a little more unified and people can really take advantage of it a little better. As it constitutes right now, the stands are nice, they're under trees, it's a very peaceful arrangement, and I think it's appropriately reverential to the topics that's being discussed. But I think it's just we need to make it a little more accessible so that our citizens can actually access that and learn a little bit more about that. Last thing I'll mention right now is based upon some of the comments from this council, and very appropriate comments I might add, with respect to how the town as it currently is constituted goes about forwarding proposals for new names. I think there has been some preliminary efforts undertaken to ensure that we broaden the diversity of voices that are being brought forward in terms of how we're going to name streets or roads within the municipality. But unless there's any comments or questions about any of that, that would conclude my report for planning this month.
Just on your last point, Councillor, I believe the intent is to ensure that it's more inclusive, the policy is more inclusive of not only past residents, but also residents who may have come here recently and,
yes,
and been worthy of honoring appropriately with a street naming or other naming
precisely
protocol.
Yep.
Thank you.
Your Worship, just one question in relation to duplication of, or potential duplication or similarity of names from an emergency response perspective. Is the dispatch province-wide in relation to, so if someone called in, for example, Russell, I'm not sure how many communities have a street named Russell. I know there's a Russell Street in Summerside, for example. Is there any potential for confusion there? Not necessarily from the fire department's perspective, maybe EMS. I know, I say that because years ago there was a movement from the province to rename a number of streets to eliminate some of the commonalities, and I'm not sure how far-reaching they go outside of individual communities.
I don't know. That's a little outside my wheelhouse, Mr. Councillor, but I think every community on PEI is likely going to have a King or Prince or Queen Street, so maybe Mr. Keegan might be able to tell us.
I can speak to that somewhat. When the civic addressing first came out, this is back in 1999 or 2000, whatever it was, Stratford and Amyvale were the two pilot project communities at that point in time. And a lot of the regulatory framework or policy for that had discussed that situation you speak of, Councillor. You decided at that time, if I recall correctly, that you could have duplication, but it had to be separate community
That's right.
names in order to narrow it down and make it more precise. So when saying the name Russell, you'd say Russell Street in Stratford.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much for your report, Councillor McDonald. Okay, we'll now move to infrastructure. I'll ask Deputy Mayor Gallant to give his report.
Thank you, Your Worship. Infrastructure report for October 11th, 2023. Work is ongoing and progressing well in community campus site with most of the road and trail subgrade constructed, water source, storm, and electrical installed. The focus is shifting to the Bunbury Road end of project now that the land has been secured for the alignment of the intersection with the Duffy Road.
Oh, that's complete.
That's complete. There we go.
100%, great.
My residents are happy.
I'm glad to hear that.
The base layer of asphalt will be placed on the new roads and multi-use trail by the end of November. The tender for the solar array is being prepared and with installation anticipated in the spring. Work has begun on the waterfront gathering event space project. Earthwork is underway to prepare the boardwalk and deck installation, and screw piles are being installed to support the 3 lookout areas. The work and deck work is expected to be complete by the end of December, with lighting to be completed in the spring due to the long delivery times to the fixtures. That's nice to see. It's been happening the last couple of weeks down there at the waterfront, so it's nice to see it getting started. Construction has begun for the second water reservoir on Georgetown Road. Completion of the project is expected to end by December. Move my thing here. Construction has begun the replacement of the Corey Sewage Lift Station. Work will continue throughout the fall and winter with commissioning of the new station anticipated by the end of January. Due to the long delivery time, the generator will be installed and commissioned upon arrival, expected to be late summer or early fall 2024. WSP continue to work on design options for the Kinloch Road Force Main project. Design package is planned to be completed and ready for tender by January for construction in the spring. Infrastructure staff has been busy with the following: closing season buildings and winterizing sports fields, completing painted exterior maintenance buildings in Hollis Avenue and of course the Barnack Robert Cotton Park. Grass cutting and landscaping is ongoing. Assisted with the Fall Fest event to set up removal. Ongoing maintenance of town-owned properties, building end trails. Installing additional power at community gardens. Procurement for an installation of concrete floor at a dry storage space building. Coordinating installation of heat pump at waterfront maintenance building. Coordinating paving at Cotton Park, which is finished. Working with the consultants on to finalize active transportation master plan. Maintenance and upkeep of vehicles and equipment. And bylaw complaints or investigation are ongoing. Temporary speed hump assessments and installations. Sewer lateral installation on East River Drive. Water and sewer inspections. And water turn-ons for new development is ongoing. Removal of water meters from seasonal properties. Completed third quarter meter readings for the billing. Unidirectional flushing of water distribute the system underway. Ongoing inspection of maintenance of water and sewer systems and managing ongoing customer and resident inquiries and concerns. During the month of September, there was one sewer lateral blockage on Mason Road found to be caused by a low section of the lateral on the property owner's side of service. And that's my report, Your Worship.
Thank you. Any questions?
Any questions? Yeah.
Just have a few questions, Mr. Deputy, and it may be Ms. Woodard who wants to answer them. So in terms of the active transportation master plan, is there a timeline on when we can expect that final master plan?
I'll just refer that to Jeannie.
Sure. Oh, okay. All right.
We will take it through our committees to get the recommendation, bring it forward to council for adoption, which we hope will be actually the next council meeting in November.
Great. Okay. Yeah. And I ask about this a lot, Ms. Woodard. I'm just going to.
So that'll be available for committee of the whole meeting at the end of the month? Yes. As well. Great. Thank you.
I'm wondering if there's any update on obtaining financing for the installation of generators at some of our lift stations. I know that's an active, an ongoing thing, and I know you're making your best efforts, but I wonder if there's any update.
Don't have an update, unfortunately. The application was done through a portal online, and the only status update is that it's being reviewed. So I haven't had any word, or I don't have contact to reach out to. So unfortunately, I'm still waiting to hear.
And so, if you don't know, that's okay. What is it under the Ministry of Finance, or is it a Ministry of?
It's federal funding.
What is it? Okay, all right.
It's after mitigation and allocation.
Yeah. Okay. Have you heard of anybody getting that funding?
I have not. I haven't been asking around either.
Sure.
I haven't heard.
Okay. Thank you.
Just quick comment, Your Worship. More comment than the question, I guess, but I think it's, and it may have already been looked into, it may be very premature, but just given the approval for the intersection connector at Duffy Road, I think it'd be prudent to kind of keep an eye if the planning is not already in place as to crosswalk signalization and lighting for that area, because it is going to be used at all hours into the evening and such, so it'd be, I expect to be a very busy turn, and potentially with a lot of pedestrians and bicyclists as well. And like I say, it may be very premature, but I'll just put that out there for food for thought.
Yeah, I think that's something that will be looked at
Oh, yeah.
as a matter of course as part of the discussions with the Gray Group. And
So, sorry, just to clarify, that's the intersection of community campus at Duffy Road.
Yeah.
oh, I'm sorry, the
Bunbury
Duffy
Duffy.
Road. Oh, yeah, I'm sorry, I was.
So that
Bunbury
is
Duffy.
being designed for the province with the consultant firm. Our understanding at this point is that it will be a lighted intersection. And I fully trust that there will be signalized crosswalks
Yeah.
incorporated in that, but we can certainly, as much as we can, inquire and push for that.
The traffic engineers at the province will look at that and what's required.
Yeah, no, I appreciate that, and I think just from the town's perspective, we appreciate the director's already on top of it as far as the thought process goes, but sometimes it's easier to request things at the front end.
Yep.
Yeah, you're right. Yeah, I understand
Absolutely.
that.
Yeah, thanks for raising it.
Yeah, you're going
Okay.
to see light fixtures like from No Frills, Cotton Park, Mason and Bunbury Road, Duffy and Bunbury Road. You're going to see light fixtures all the way up that road.
Okay, any other questions on the infrastructure memo? If not, I believe you have a resolution, Deputy Mayor. Oh, sorry.
I
No,
just
go
had
ahead.
one question. This is now working very well. The pond that has now been filled, like the work that's been done on that, I've had a resident or two ask me, is that project considered complete now?
Project, no, because the project does encompass Kelly's pond.
Mm-hmm.
But the work in Moore's Pond, yes, other than perhaps a little bit of cleanup, I'm not quite sure if the contractor has gone in and done that final restoration. The
Okay.
work in the pond and having it in the water is complete, yes.
Okay, I had inquiries in regards to perhaps just the finished, the side that borders along Stratford Road, perhaps is not looking quite as complete as other areas.
And that was part of creating more containment along the road so that our watershed group can come and do some plantings there. That may only occur if it's approved, but that will be kind of a follow-up to the project work to enhance the whole process.
I think that is an important question. I think also the waterway between Moore's Pond and Kelly's Pond is, I know when I was knocking on doors in that area previously, there was a lot of concern raised about the debris and that sort of thing that's in that area, and I don't know if that's going to be cleaned up as part of the project or not. I believe there's an old car body in there, and there's a bunch of other stuff in there.
Not aware of that, and it would be part of the project, but it's something that we can discuss with the watershed group to see if they're looking at that.
Yeah, that's great. Thank you. Okay, any other questions or comments? If not, we'll move to your resolution, Deputy Mayor.
Yes, Town of Stratford Resolution Number INC 010-2023, Supplemental Capital Budget for Miscellaneous Capital Items. Led by myself, Deputy Mayor. Whereas 2023, the capital budget includes $25,000 for miscellaneous capital items used for the circumstances installing service laterals to vacant lots, replacement or damaged or faulty utility infrastructure assets. Whereas work to install the fire hydrant and valving was completed on Jubilee Road to both enhance the fire protection in the area as well as enable water supply to 2 Jubilee Road while providing isolation to the section of water main under the Trans-Canada Highway needing repair. Whereas whereas this was an unplanned project with a cost to supply and install the new capital assets of $49,321.65 plus HST. Whereas the miscellaneous capital items budget should fund the project, but is also available for any upcoming inquiries throughout the remainder of the budget year. Being resolved, that a supplemental capital utility budget of $50,000 be approved to increase the miscellaneous capital items budget to $75,000. So, and this resolution bears the recommendation of the Infrastructure Committee as discussed at a meeting held on September 21st, 2023.
Okay, so you moved that resolution?
Yep.
Okay,
I'll move the motion. Just looking for a seconder now.
Okay, do I have a seconder?
Second by Gordy.
Councillor Cox, thank you. Okay, and I guess the infrastructure committee would have discussed,
Yes, we discussed it on our last,
I just wonder how the amount of 75,000 was arrived at when it's only 25,000 is needed for this particular subject. And we don't have a lot of time left in this this fiscal year.
The project was the 49,321.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Approved was 25,000.
Oh, okay, so the total is 49, it's not just 25, yeah.
For anything that might come up, and we are aware of a sewer lateral, just mentioned in the report.
So we're increasing by 50,000?
Correct, yes.
Yeah, okay.
To cover that cost.
Okay, yeah, okay, no, that's fine.
So I'm just wondering, and Director Woodard, you may not be the right person. I don't see Director O'Connell there, but so maybe CEO Crosby. Where does the $50,000 come from?
It's a question for our Director of Finance.
It may be the CEO's couch cushions, but I just, well, I don't know.
I do believe it will be part of the financing. I do know that there will be other projects that we carried under the capital budget that may have been dependent on funding that will go ahead. So at the end of the day, I would anticipate it's not going to be extra. It would be just offsetting.
Okay.
But,
So would it be cash on hand at, you know, the amount of money that we have that is
I can't talk to that. I'm so sorry.
okay?
That's okay.
I know you mentioned the reserve funding, but we are.
Sorry, I didn't quite catch that. Yeah, sorry.
CAO was explaining that it would come from a reserve fund or we would
Okay.
borrow the money.
All right, thank you. Yep.
Okay, we got a motion that's been moved and seconded. Any other comments or questions or discussion? Okay, call for the question. All those in favor?
Aye.
Anyone against? Motion carried. Okay, we'll now move to, okay, thank you very much for your report, Deputy Mayor.
Thank you very much.
We'll now move to Committee of the Whole, and this is a resolution that was, and I guess it'll be moved by, I guess, Councillor Chandler. Would you?
Yep.
Yeah, thank you.
Okay. So this is the Town of Stratford Resolution CW 015-2023 Community Campus Capital Campaign, and it is moved by myself. Whereas the Town of Stratford is committed to fostering community well-being by developing a dynamic hub of indoor and outdoor amenities, offering diverse opportunities to enhance physical, social, and mental well-being. And whereas the Town of Stratford envisions a community campus that will build upon an already strong community through innovation and collaboration with citizens and government. And whereas the Town Council recognizes the significance and potential impact of the community campus in meeting the needs of our community. And whereas the Town Council, supported by the Community Campus Fundraising Feasibility Study, conducted by DCG Philanthropic, that researched the town's opportunity to ask stakeholders what is important to them and determine the community's appetite for funding the community campus project. And whereas the feasibility study bid process included an option for the successful consultant to provide guidance and oversee a capital campaign. And whereas the town is at the point of committing to a capital campaign led by the successful consultant shall provide management services to oversee and support effective delivery of the campaign strategy. The successful consultant will work with Town of Stratford councillors, staff, and a volunteer leadership team to support the production and delivery of suggested tools and tactics. The successful consultant will also advise campaign leadership on strategies to engage donors, build profile, and guide the campaign towards its objectives. And whereas the successful consultant shall designate a working team to assist with the day-to-day administration of the campaign, support volunteers, participate in designated solicitations, and maintain tracking and donor stewardship responsibilities. Be it resolved that the Town of Stratford authorizes DCG Philanthropic to administer the Community Campus Capital Campaign in the amount of $252,350. Please note that this resolution bears the recommendation of the Committee of the Whole based on a vote on September 27th, 2023.
Thank you for your resolution. Do we have a seconder?
I'll second.
Doesn't matter.
Go, Jeff.
I think Deputy Mayor, I saw Deputy Mayor
He's
get
pretty
to it
quick on the
first,
draw, so that's fine.
I'm going to recognize him as the seconder. Thank you.
Thank you.
You get honorable mention.
There, I'll take it.
I know that this is a very popular resolution because it is something we're really looking forward to, and we do want to have a successful campaign. This resolution authorizes the town to hire consultants to undertake a fundraising campaign to facilitate building the new multipurpose facility that will provide things for all ages and all groups within our community, gathering space for the community, and just an all-around facility for everyone to use for many, many different purposes. So I can see why it's popular, and that yeah. So it is the kind of thing that I hope everyone in the community will want their name associated with through the capital campaign. It is something that we're going to look to residents to really support financially. So with that, any discussion, any comments or questions?
Just a quick comment, Your Worship. I'll speak in support of this motion. It is very much a landmark project for the community to embark upon a fundraising effort to the degree that is going to be required to provide appropriate funding for the community's cost share of the community campus project. And we have had several meetings with the principals and associates of DCG Philanthropic. They seem to have a very good track record, and I think through their comments and their proposals, they've instilled a high degree of confidence among council of their capabilities. So we'll be supporting this motion. Thank you.
I just want to say that, you know, being involved in the process to date over the last year, what's really apparent is how much this is an initiative that certainly, I think, maybe being led by recreation certainly encompasses every single facet of our town's various committees and various groups and all of its employees. And so I certainly want to recognize all of the efforts of all of the town staff which have been involved in getting this project to this point. Certainly, I think this project has the potential to become the heart of our municipality and the heart of our community. So certainly, it's good to see that we're moving forward. I think, as Mr. Mayor noted, we're all excited to see what happens and to see this project move forward. So really looking forward to what happens next.
Any other discussion, comments, questions? If not, I'll call for the question. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Anyone against? Motion carried. Thank you very much for the resolution, Councillor Chandler. And thank you all for the whole council for all your positive efforts to move this initiative forward. I think this council has been very supportive and has provided a lot of great ideas and direction for this initiative. So I think I predict it'll be very successful, and it'll be something I hope will give us some leverage with the federal and provincial governments in getting the funding that we need from those funding partners as well. Yeah. Okay, we'll move on to sustainability. I'll ask the chair of that committee, Councillor Gordy Cox, to give his report.
Okay, first of all, just want to thank Wendy Watts and Matty Crowell for their input and concentration as always, with the committee. I really appreciate it. The committee, in the past week, resumed our meetings after taking the summer off. Some of the programs we talked about and projects we talked about was the bike sharing program. The town is partnering with Charlottetown on a bike sharing program across both municipalities, and one responds to a recent RFP. There is currently, though, no funding available to assist with this with this project, and in line with the recommendation from Infrastructure Committee, also from our Sustainability Committee last week, moved to delay implementation of the project until at least one main source of funding is secured, rather than proceed without a funding source. The Sustainability Committee last week also discussed the ongoing issue of erosion and sediment runoff from the development in the town, particularly in light of the newly restored Morris Pond. Staff will be taking additional measures to ensure the development within the sub-watershed draining to Morris Pond is carried out with the utmost environmental controls in place so that the future work is not required in the area after the project is completed. The annual business survey is now open. The town would like to hear from all businesses through this survey, which can be accessed on the town's website. The town of Stratford is partnering with Junior Achievement to pilot a PD Day program during the 2023-24 school year. Anticipated 3 days will be offered to youth 8 to 12 years old through Junior Achievement, with support from the town, including the opportunity for local businesses and leaders to connect with the youth and providing mentoring and job exploration. As we all probably know, Junior Achievement is already in schools such as Colonel Gray and Charlottetown Rural, et cetera, and as a former member of the board of directors, I certainly believe everything that Junior Achievement is trying to put forth here. So I think that's great for our town. An important transit strategic plan is underway with fellow T3 partners in Cornwall and Charlottetown. A survey is currently available for both riders and non-riders to complete, and an open house will be held on October 17th, take place in Stratford for residents to provide their further feedback and ideas. The town's Diversity and Inclusion Subcommittee held 2 activities in September, including a new resident meet and greet and the Human Library, which is really interesting. I think that's really cool, as part of Fall Fest. Both were considered successes by the committee, with improvements discussed at the most recent meeting for the next time that it's offered. The Diversity and Inclusion Committee is now looking forward towards a couple of dates in December to be recognized in a possible partnership on at least one of them, along with the regular committee work and discussions. And one last thing, I guess recently with the tail end of tropical storms like Lee and Franklin, which brought back memories of Fiona and Dorian, I guess we should once again let our residents know that be very careful about legitimate businesses who may approach you or you get in contact with when it comes to construction, such as a garden shed or tree removal or planting. Just be careful. I think 4 things you should note here is there are governing bodies that can check to see if this business that you're talking about or talking to is legitimate. Always ask for references. 3, get a quote in writing. And 4, never give money to the business in question before the project is complete. I think every community kind of deals with some fly-by-night businesses that pop up. And right now, the PEI Construction Association is trying hard to make sure that construction, especially like roofing construction companies, follow the same procedures and licensing as like plumbing and electrical. And I think that we're going to see even more of that when it comes to tree planting and as it kind of goes down the line to make sure that people are protected. And what the RCMP officer today, one of the people that he's dealing with used some of these businesses where they weren't secure businesses with licenses, and residents didn't know who to go to. So I think it's important that our residents do look into who they're hiring to help them at their residence. And a final note, I went back into substitute teaching today because there's a shortage, basically, and I got called back after over a year. That's why I'm late today, and that's why I don't have my jacket on. I just kind of came from where I was, and but it was scary and unique at the same time, and I do not want to go back to teach junior high ever again, but I'm going back tomorrow. And so anyhow,
You're braver than I am.
there's a real shortage, and I commend our substitute teachers. I really had a wake-up call today about what they do. And anyway, I'm a little frazzled, and but I made it here, and my voice is kind of gone from screaming at people. Don't do that. And but anyhow, it was exciting all the same. So a big shout out to our teachers and administrators and education people for the work that they do.
Thank you for your report, Councillor Cox, and I appreciate everything teachers do, and I think they're really undervalued in our society. I think the value that they add to our society is really underestimated, and it's immeasurable, really.
Yeah.
So thank you. I just had one question on your report, if that's
Sure.
okay.
Yeah.
Just with regard to the bike sharing program, there's no source of funding. I guess I'm just wondering about the follow-up in terms of, are there funding sources being, being identified, and are applications
Okay.
being submitted? So. Yeah,
Yeah.
because I understood that we did have funding previously.
Yeah, it's a little more expensive too than we really thought it was going to be.
Okay.
So there's different variables.
The budget that we carried was contingent on funding coming through. We never did have that secured as we passed the budget back in March. So Charlottetown, we have applied preliminary application for some SEM funding. That's a long process, so once they get that approval, they need to submit an actual application form, and that can take 5 to 7 months to have that approved. But we are confident that the provincial AT fund will fund this project, which would be 50% funding, and that wouldn't be reviewed and approved until March or April. So
Okay, great. That'll be in time for next summer.
exactly.
Great.
Well, to get started, at least.
Could it get started? Yeah. Okay, thank you.
I think it's important to note too that the main company that's overseeing this is from Ontario, and they would farm out a lot of things like fixing bikes and whatever, but they're not here on PEI, and you're looking at like $180,000 a year, so it's a fairly significant investment between the two municipalities, and we want to make sure we have everything in place so it's feasible for both places and for residents of both places. It's certainly needed, and certainly something that we champion, but we can't just throw money into it where it's going to be a huge cost to the residents. So we have to make sure we have all our I's and dotted and T's crossed.
Yeah, and in terms of the Diversity and Inclusion Committee, I did attend the Diversity and Inclusion Committee meeting that was recently held, and it was a lot of great topics discussed and a lot of ideas, and I think it's a really active committee, and I think it's a great committee. So and it's very inclusive. It's got a lot of representation from. I would commend Wendy Watts for her efforts in putting that committee together, and this council in terms of the people that were selected to that committee, because it's a really broad representation of our community. So I think their recommendations and ideas and activities are really valuable to our town. Any other comments or questions on the sustainability report?
Yeah, I just want to speak, Your Worship, in relation to an item that was raised at the committee, being sediment runoff from development. Currently, we continue to get complaints, particularly around subdivisions like Redden subdivision, every time there's a heavy rain event. As we discussed at the committee meeting, it doesn't appear as though current measures in accordance with the development agreement are always effective or even always complied with. And I know staff, following that conversation, are exploring with other communities, Madeline Crowell specifically, as to what modernization to those techniques might have come into play in recent years, and how we might bolster that sediment control through development agreements so that we won't continually have issues in relation to runoff onto roads and other properties, and specifically our watercourse and ponds, and filling them up. And I think we can do better in that regard through the development agreement and put more onus on the developer. And I know there's a meeting coming up shortly with the developers, which I plan to attend, and that is one thing I'll canvass with developers as well to get their perspective on it. And I know the town planning staff no doubt have thoughts in relation to that as well. And it'd be, you know, certainly interesting to hear what they might be. But I think it's better to bolster it at the front end than to follow complaints and deal with expensive issues after the fact. If there are ways we can work to mitigate runoff, and the siltation is a very difficult thing to catch, of course, but you know, there may be techniques that would enhance that. And the other thing that was discussed, given the decline of forestation in the community due to Fiona and due to development, was the potential for inclusion of specific requirements in the development agreements for forestation of properties by the developer as they develop in accordance with the character and size and scope of the lot. And I see a plan, for example, with the school where they had plenty of trees along the roadway and around. You know, that's the type of thing we have to keep a vision for going forward, and make sure that our developments, where possible, include trees and shrubbery in order to make up for the losses that we've incurred during Fiona and are incurring through continued development. I just wanted to raise those because we did have some very interesting discussions at the meeting in relation to those items, and not to get ahead in relation to the planning department and stuff. And I know the planning department's in full agreement that we want to do better in relation to runoff, and we want to do what we can to help enhance properties. And there may have to be some cooperative engagement between the community and the developer in relation to things like, say, forestation. But I think it's worth looking at long term, and this is not something I'm suggesting was going to be brought up in or dealt with in the short term, but it is something that I intend to bring up at our priorities meeting coming up next month, or later this month, I guess.
Yeah.
Yes.
So, Mr.
Anyway.
Counselor, I just wanted, did you say you noticed something or you heard something with respect to the development with the Redden development? Did I?
Yeah, we got residents, and I passed them on to the CAO. There was one complaint initially from a resident. A few weeks ago, we had a heavy rain event, and there was a lot of siltation coming out onto the road. Basically, it's, you know, covered the road, and it was a very heavy runoff. And there was a development there that didn't appear to have much by way of runoff mitigation. And when I had contacted the CAO, they, of course, were already aware of that and already had taken action. And right away, the developer did put mitigation efforts in place. And then just very recently, I think a few days ago, we had a heavier rain event within the last week, and a similar type event occurred. So even with current requirements or mitigation, it still wasn't doing the trick. Maybe there isn't anything else that can be done, but if there is, then, you know, let's modernize it and improve that system from there.
Thank you. Yeah.
I think those are very important comments, and I would ask that they be followed up. We can discuss them at our priorities meeting, but we can also maybe ask that they be followed up at our next planning and development and heritage meeting. I think, and my understanding is that most of those mitigation measures are designed for rain less than 25 millimeters in a 24-hour period. And my understanding is that there was only 24 millimeters of rain with the latest storm that took place. So I don't, if if they're not working with that much, you know, with less than 25 millimeters of rain, I know it was in a shorter period of time, but it still concerns me that that has taken place. So we really need to follow that up.
Interestingly, Your Worship, you know, just my own observations in around the ponds at Cotton Park, you know, there still continues to be a high degree of siltation runoff in relation to the Kelly Heights subdivision development, and that is well underway, and much of it's already grassed in. But even with that, there still seems to be.
Are you speaking of the siltation in the pond that's at the corner of Kinloch and Stratford Roads? Is that what you're speaking about?
No, the pond in Cotton Park itself, just off
In
of
Cotton
the
Park, yeah.
waterfront
yeah.
trail.
And I think that's been recognized as
Yeah.
something we need to discuss.
Yeah, but I'm just saying the siltation continues to be an issue,
Yeah.
even though the development is well underway. So, you know, maybe there's nothing to be done. I don't want to prejudice the planning department initiatives. You know, they may well have already been delving into all of this. I'm just bringing it up because it was discussed at the meeting, and I know from the Ms. Krell's perspective, she's undertaken through Wendy Watts, the other committee member, the committee chair, to or the committee member, to look at different opportunities and see what other communities might have, to see if there's anything else that can be done. So it's one of those things where, like I say, our director may already be well underway with all this stuff, but I don't bring it up to say that you know, the staff hasn't been following up on it. Of course they have, but it's just one of those things that as a community we have to continue to strive to improve upon measures in all respects, including those areas where there continues to be after the fact issues in relation to end results being costly to the community, when maybe more can be done by the developer too on the front end.
Well, I think you're by raising it, you're doing the right thing, and I look forward to discussion. I'm not sure when the meeting with developers has taken place, but I think that would be a really appropriate time to raise it as well, to see if they have ideas about what can be done as well. But I know that we do have some tools that have been used and are being used to not only encourage developers, but really direct developers to take the appropriate action, and we do have compliance measures that we can take, including up to and including stop work orders if things aren't complied with. So there is obviously that's sort of a nuclear option, but it is something that is there, and I know it has been used in the past and it will be used in the future. But is there anything any staff member would like to add to that with regard to this issue?
I'll just say, Your Worship, I think generally speaking, developers want to develop in a community-friendly manner, and provided our requirements are there and upfront and clear, they'll always comply with that, or largely comply with that. I'm sure there's a few that try to economize, but for the most part, I think developers are members of the community, and they're interested in sustainable development as well with their own projects. But
okay, well, we don't want to lose this. We'll follow it up at Committee of the Whole and at our priorities meeting, and hopefully it'll be raised at the developers meeting. Okay, anything else on this? Okay, thank you for your report, Councillor Cox. All right, I'll now move on to intergovernmental affairs and accountability. I was away for the latest meeting, so Councillor Jackson, vice chair of that committee, he filled in my absence, so he's agreed to provide the report for that committee.
Thank you, Your Worship. So the committee met after a summer hiatus on September 21st. So just some highlights of that meeting. We had a recap of the urban mayor's meeting, which occurred earlier in the summer. Main topics discussed there: housing, transit, climate adaptation. So key, key topics for the urban mayors and PEI. So great to have that group together. I know it's been fairly fruitful. I think the discussions and great to have everyone on the same page, dealing with the same issues, and like we said, coming up with maybe some creative solutions where possible. I've also had an update on the Atlantic Mayors Congress. Again, housing is big in every community in this region and across the country. So housing was a big topic discussed there. Basic income is something that there's a lot of discussion on. Need to make sure that it fits and that we understand everything that's going on there. So I think there's more to come on that. We had a recap of the meeting with the Stratford ministers, and that was a discussion that was held with Minister Burge and Minister Redmond to talk about shared priorities for Stratford and update them, and for them to update our group on where some key initiatives are at. We talked about affordable housing at that meeting as well. And to the point, Your Worship, you just mentioned the meeting with the developers. November 7th, I think Wendy Shape Stratford meeting with council and developers to talk about lots of different things, how we move forward. We could talk about how we deal with you know, kind of following those development rules. And I do agree with Councillor Dowling and Your Worship. I think we need to make it very clear. I think we have some great developers in this area we've had over the last number of years, and even those that are well-intended. Back in 2017-18, thinking of like Creekside and some places like that, all the measures were there, and it's still, you know, it was terrible in a couple of heavy rains. And the thing is, that rain, maybe that threshold's too much, not enough, I'm not sure, but those rain events are happening on a weekly basis almost now, and maybe all of August. So we need to take a look at that. If we need to go above and beyond, I would happily vote for more stringent methods there and measures. We don't want to have Morris Pond and Kelly's Pond fill in again. We just can't have that. That's a colossal waste of money. So just to that November 7th meeting, I don't know if there was some discussion on having reps of the province there. I think that would be beneficial if there was someone from housing or finance or both. Because I think the biggest issue right now for a lot of developers is in, you know, hoping the province will come to the table. I know the federal, provincial governments are talking about tax rebates and things like that, but there's a lot more needed to meet the demand that we're looking at. So I'm hoping that's, looking forward to that discussion, hoping we can have as many people at the table as possible for that. Let me see what else I have here. Just lost my place. That was essentially it. So the one good thing, that great group, I know I say this every time we meet with that group, but they're a terrific bunch of Stratford residents who are keen to, you know, provide their input on how we deal with government, how we strategize, how we leverage certain situations and things like that, and they are very, very complimentary of our staff. I know Jeremy and Wendy are there, and Mayor Ogden's usually at that, but they are very complimentary of our relationships with provincial, federal government, other municipalities, staff and council. So it's been a really good committee, and I know that committee has struggled before to get quorum, and we haven't, you know, knock on wood. We've done really well, and I think it speaks to the change in that committee to have more an intergovernmental affairs focus as well, along with engagement and accountability. So thanks to Wendy and Jeremy and Jade and some of the other folks that are dealing with that and bringing good topics. That's another part of it, is having these updates from Your Worship and from Jeremy and having really good, meaningful discussions, and that's what brings folks to the meeting. So I think that's it for my report. Any questions on that meeting?
I had asked the CAO Crosby about this last week. Just wondering if there's any update on our Housing Accelerator Fund application. Or, yeah, Ms. Watts? Yeah.
No, we haven't heard anything back ourselves yet.
Sorry. Mine wasn't related to what he just said.
Okay, go ahead. Sure.
I just wondered, I think I've asked this before, in regards to the engagement stats, I see that it's noted here that Google and X are updating their analytics. Are those the metrics we use for engagement? Or is that our measure of engagement? Because, yeah, I guess what caused me, or what made me question is that the next statement is that the town is maintaining high engagement. So, yeah, I just wondered what our metric is.
There's a variety of things that we look at, but they're making some changes to what they allow us to look at and the feedback that they give us, or some of the things that we've looked at in the past. So every time any of those accounts make a change, it sometimes affects what we've historically reported on or viewed ourselves.
So engagement is the engagement we are measuring our metrics or traffic through our website?
It's all of it. So if you look at any of our, I can send you the report, if you go to any of our accountability engagement agenda packages,
Yep.
there's always a report there every month, and it looks at all of our social media accounts, it looks at our website, it tracks YouTube visits, all kinds of things. that are
Online.
all the time. Yeah.
Online engagement.
Press releases as well, doesn't it?
Got it.
Yeah, we may, I can't remember.
Yeah,
It changes sometimes.
there's a bunch of things on there. I know it's a lot of, there's a lot of information in there, yeah, yeah.
No,
So we try to
awesome.
look for trends, so we try to see, are we increasing month over month?
Okay. And engagement to, does engagement coordinate with other departments, like i.e. events? Like, do we capture engagement as participation in youth center events, for example, recreation? Like, are we crossing departments and counting that as?
For our KPIs, it is. So annually, we update our key performance indicators,
Mhm.
and that information is all tracked by department through that information, but not on this mini report. The mini report's kind of a snapshot of what's going on.
My understanding is that anytime we give or receive information from the public is considered engagement. Is that not correct?
Yeah, no,
And that's tracked?
but not all of it is tracked.
Oh, not all of it's tracked,
The
okay.
reports are only tracked, like, kind of
Oh,
reported on annually.
okay, annually, okay, sorry, yeah, yeah.
Thank you.
While you're there, Director Watts, just a question in relation to the Housing Accelerator Fund. Has there been I seem to recall something to the effect of not necessarily a change, but an unexpected requirement for densification and height of buildings that might preclude a lot of communities, and potentially Stratford as well, from any success in the application project, almost seemingly geared towards larger municipalities, larger cities. Can you speak to that? I'm not quite clear on what that was, but.
I'll do my best, and then somebody else can jump in here, but there was an earlier phase of the project that was for larger centers, and it closed in, I think, mid-June. So those are the ones that are initially receiving letters now from the federal housing minister, and that was never discussed as part of the application process. So everyone has applied through the CMHC Housing Accelerator Fund opportunity, the same as we have, we just had a different closing date. But those centers are receiving letters directly from the housing minister now that are suggesting to them that in order for them to get their funding, there's certain requirements that they're going to have to meet beyond what they have in their application. No one in our size group or level or whatever has received letters that we're aware of. It's only been this larger municipalities so far, and I'm not sure what the definition was on that, so we're kind of waiting, I guess, to see what happens when our letters and our notifications start coming out. That's something.
And just while you're up there, Jeremy, did Charlottetown, they did, so they're definitely in the larger size, but they, I know they came with a number of conditions or, okay, thanks.
Various changes they want to make to their application, but we did call and our application has been received, it's being reviewed, but that's all the information they give us, so we'll start with the call and the information. So we're waiting.
Okay, any other comments or questions on the intergovernmental affairs report? Okay, thank you for your report, Councillor Jackson, and thanks for filling in for me in my absence. Appreciate it. Okay, human resources, no report. Nothing to report. Okay, inquiries by members of council. Anything around the town that anyone would like to inquire about? If not, I haven't inquired, but I think it more fits under the seniors file, so I'll wait for the next item.
Okay.
Other committees, Stratford Seniors Complex, Chair of that committee is Deputy Mayor Gallant. I'll ask him to give his report.
Thank you, Worship. We met yesterday, and we're later on here, well, next paragraph here, we'll have a new committee member sworn in, so a resolution. So the painting is currently being done to touch up the areas damaged during renovations. Tenant is moving out of the building on October 31st. And of course, we'll fix it up in the unit and contact people on the waiting list. The draft 224 budget is being presented to the Seniors Committee for their review. Send out requests for quotes for snow removal, walkways at a seniors complex. Reviewing all capital work for the current year to ensure all is complete and start review and plan for 2024. And the fall maintenance is underway. And currently, right now, we have 23 people on the waiting list. And so that's where we're at right now. We're just up and running, and the place is running really well. And with Paulette and Kim behind there, it's really good. So it's the meetings, really positive meetings every 2 months. Next month, we're going to have a meeting at the residence itself, and have a meeting there, and hopefully some of the residents can jump in there. So we're looking for a liaison person to jump on the committee here. So we're just reaching out there. So we'll put some tea and coffee together, some cookies, I guess, and sit down and do our meeting and meet the residents and sort of have a chat there. So, yep. And
I would have been at this meeting yesterday, but I was at the planning, vice chair of planning, so I had to go with that.
okay, yeah, no problem. You can't do it. Can't do everything.
No, I'll try to make this one if it's at the right
Yeah,
time.
no problem. Are there any questions? I guess you had one question, Worship.
I'll raise it as other business, actually.
Okay.
I'll let you go forward with your resolution.
Okay.
Can I, Your Worship, can I just, Deputy Mayor, when you're working through the draft budget, I know we talked about this before, I don't know if it was at this meeting or others, but I know we weren't successful in getting a heat pump for the common room. Can we find a way of putting that in the budget? Like, I think the folks there have probably waited long enough for one.
Yeah.
Is there a way that you can explore putting that in the budget? I know they're not insignificant costs, but is there a way of,
No.
if we need to rob from somewhere else to do that?
We had discussion on that. It was brought up, yeah.
Okay, thank you.
I'd like to make a comment on that. Just wondering if it might be appropriate to do it since the pressure's off for cooling, which is the main impetus for the heat pump, to cool the heating it does have a central heating system. I know it's more efficient than oil, but we do have a good heating system for the complex. I was wondering if it might be appropriate to do it as part of our budget discussions and do it that way.
That's right.
I think, and the provincial government may also be willing to step up, because I know Minister Burridge and Minister Redmond are both aware of it. I think a request, out of the size of their budget might be a very simple, a simple gesture that would go a long way.
We just don't want to lose it, but I
No, we
mean,
don't wanna lose it.
surely to someone, they can come up with
Yeah.
that money in the
One way or
budget.
another, by next cooling system, we should get one. Absolutely.
Yep, go ahead,
Was there
Kim.
something you wanted to offer?
The draft budget is the operational budget for the seniors and then there's how on the senior side, it's a capital replacement plan, so we'll have to update that with the heat pump ban unless we can go the other route, get funding through the provincial government.
Yeah. Thank you.
No, it's definitely in the conversation with the heat pumps and all, and that direction, and sorely gradually get off the oil, right, and move forward that way. I know it's, and especially with the cool air in the summertime, you get the best of both worlds, like you heat in the winter and air condition in the summer, right? So with the heat pumps, right? So.
Okay, any other comments or questions on the seniors report? If not, I'll move to the next item, and I believe, Deputy Mayor, you have a
Okay, yes, the Town of Stratford Resolution, CW 016-2023, Committee Member Appointment. Moved by myself. Whereas Council has established a number of standing committees and subcommittees in the Council procedural bylaw number 47, to advise and assist Council in its deliberations. And whereas the bylaw provides the appointment of residents and stakeholders by Council to provide public input to Council in its deliberations. Being it resolved, the following residents be appointed to the Stratford Senior Committee for the remainder of the two-year term ending on November 30th, 2024, as follows: Karen Murray Marshy. Yeah. This resolution bears a recommendation of the Committee of the Whole as discussed at a meeting held on September 27th, 2023.
Okay, so that's moved by Deputy Mayor Gallant.
Yeah.
Do we have a seconder? Thank you. Councillor Jeff McDonald. Okay, discussion, any discussion? If not, we'll proceed to the question. All those in favor?
Aye.
Anyone against? Motion carried.
Thank you.
Thank you for your
Yep.
resolution and your report. Okay, no proclamations, other business. Any other business anyone would like to bring to the table at this time? Okay, I just have one item, and that is, I had a request with regard to the seniors' Christmas dinner. Now that we're sort of out of COVID, they would like to start, I believe it's a Mayflower Seniors Club that like to do this. They like to use the gymnasium. And in order for them to do it, they would have to use the kitchen, which is being used by the food program. So I'm just wondering if there's any way that we could work with both parties to see if there's some kind of a compromise or some kind of a arrangement that could be made to allow the seniors to have their Christmas dinner or Christmas luncheon or whatever it is.
Yeah, we've had discussions with the senior group, so we do have a gym booked on November 26th.
Oh, good.
Sunday. And then we've partnered or facilitated the discussion between the senior group and the group that operates the kitchen. So we fully anticipate that that will take place, and then that discussion between the kitchen, the school food group and the Lions Club as well.
Oh, that's great news. You're way ahead of me. Thanks a lot. Thank you.
Who's going to be Santa Claus?
You. All right. Any other business that anyone would like to bring to the table at this time? If not, I'll entertain a motion for